everyone, and welcome to the Captain America Civil War Spoilercast. I'm your host and moderator, Captain Logan, and I want to lead into this by saying that we've been having some weird technical things the last few minutes, so we're going to do our level best to make this happen for you, but we've had weird lagging. At one point there were 2 Rascals. It's been a whole thing the last few minutes. So anyway, we're going to do our best to bring you an enjoyable and exciting and fun Spoilercast, talking about lots of ins and outs of Captain America Civil War, as much as we can do in about an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour. And I have to definitely leave right after an hour, so we're not going to be able to spend 2.5 hours on this like we have. So going to make sure that everybody gets a chance to say their piece on this. I got to see it 3 weeks ago, and I'm very excited that I finally am going to get to talk about this, or actually more excited that I'm finally going to get to hear what you guys think. I've already said my 2 cents on this, so I'm going to start off by having the panel each give an introduction and talk about their best thing and their worst thing. And first of all, I'm going to, if the Google fates allow, introduce my my esteemed cohorts. First of all, it's the Curious Low.
Hello! I can't believe I was able to actually get here in time.
Yeah, well, you didn't, but neither did we, for many reasons.
You were just lucky, or we were later.
The second of Ascos.
Hello, everyone.
The bubbly and boisterous as always, Steve Baxi.
I'm bubbly now? Okay.
Yeah. No, not really. I'm making fun of you about an exchange we had earlier about how you're not.
Ha ha, people will not get the context. It's the best.
And finally, I know, but it's it's sarcastic either way. And finally, the real Manos.
Hey, you damn Yankees, how you doing?
So let's go ahead and go around and find out what everybody's favorite and least favorite thing was about Captain America Civil War. Exciting. Folks have been waiting for a good long time to finally get to get to talk about this. So let's begin with the real Manos. Manos, your immediate thoughts walking out and your best thing, worst thing. Oh, by the way, also Eric is here, or was here. He's trying to get in. So this is me introducing Eric. Eric, theoretically, is here, and hopefully he'll get to talk to us as well. Oh, there's Eric.
Speak of the
There
devil.
Yes. Why don't you go ahead and lead us off, sir?
Sure. Okay, well, hey, that's how you do a movie about manipulating 2 superheroes into fighting. What a fantastic script this was. This film is not so much a sequel to Winter Soldier as it is a sequel to lots of films. Actually, it is kind of now the Marvel saga, where, you know, these films are one series, really. And oh boy, I mean, this picks up on so many things that's been going on in the other films. It doesn't leave anybody in the dust, even though it is a Captain America film. It doesn't set up Tony as a straw man just to tear down, much similar in the way that the Civil War comic did. This was a fantastic film, and very emotional, too. I mean, it tricked me in some places. Oh, hold on. Sorry. There is a railway across my apartment building. All right. And
Manos, are you taking the 9 o'clock, the 9:15 train to Georgia?
Yeah, I gotta hop on after the podcast.
Okay.
Me and Boxcar Willie are heading over to Richmond. Well, if I was trying to struggle to like, oh, what's a bad thing in this film, because, you know, it hit so many. It hit all in the right places. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe the Nemo, the Baron Zemo in this isn't a Baron. He's a little played down, but to be honest, the Zemo they do in this is very effective. And his plan is really smart, and it works. So I guess that's That's the worst thing I can think of.
This is going to be a really interesting show because, again, assuming that we're all able to interact okay, I'm expecting, because I know from discussions we've had in our Google chat from earlier today and a couple days ago, that there are going to be some dissenting opinions tonight. We might have a little bit of a Geekvolution Civil War here in the middle of our Civil War Spoilercast. Really interesting.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you right now. Yeah.
Okay, it seemed like a second where I could check.
Hi, Eric. It will be interesting to see how this goes because I was surprised to hear Manos say that he didn't think of a whole lot of negative because I know there are other people here that have plenty of negative to say even if they really enjoyed it. Let's hear it now, Eric, since he's in right now and might have difficulties coming in and out. Eric, give us your best thing, worst thing, and when you walked out of the theater.
Well, when I walked out of the theater, I really liked it, but I was really conflicted. I actually ended up seeing this 3 times before. I knew I had to see it a second time because there were things that didn't fully make sense to me. And then I got abducted and was forced to see the 3rd time. Forced in quotations. I think within this film is the best superhero movie ever made. There's a couple of decisions I really disagree with creatively, some of which come from the fact that this is an Avengers movie, that they shoehorn a couple of things in to make it feel like a Captain America movie. I think you could have cut Sharon Carter entirely. I think she just wastes screen time. And if Black Widow was going to be a turncoat, just have Black Widow turn a little bit earlier and be the one that gives Captain Falcon their gear, and have her just be on the other side from the start. But none of that was really my confusion. My confusion was with Zemo's plot, which I think is great. I think Zemo is easily the most successful supervillain we've ever had, and one of the best. Maybe the best villain we've had since, or performance-wise, since Heath Ledger's Joker. I think he's just phenomenal. And I knew walking out of it, I really liked him. I just didn't know if he made sense, and he does make sense, but it feels like all of the interconnected tissue scenes of his plot have been cut. But I think with a couple of changes, this could be my favorite superhero movie ever, and maybe the best superhero movie ever. As it is, it's really good. I really like it. Best thing, I'll say, when Zemo explains his backstory, and like he has this whole huge tragic story that he tells about digging up his family, it took him 2 days to dig up his family. And finding his father still holding his wife and child, and then he says, "And where were the Avengers? They went home." And I was like, "Oh, that's a really good line." So I'm gonna say that's my best thing. I'm gonna give it to that Zemo line. Worst thing, I have a lot of grievances with this movie, but I'm gonna say the worst thing is this is the worst Stan Lee cameo. I thought the joke was unfunny and unrealistic. I'm sorry, you have an incredibly rich, famous man who then becomes a superhero, who then is involved in an international incident and is hugely politically important right now. No one delivers a package and goes, "Oh, are you Donald Grump?" No, you know who Tony Stark is. That joke's not funny. I don't like it.
I mean, if anybody was going to deliver that joke, it was going to be an old guy who delivers mail for a living. That's a pretty out-of-touch person right there.
Yeah.
and even
I'm just pulling it out.
Yeah, well, and he doesn't have to be out of touch. He could have a touch of dementia.
Oh, this just got sad.
I don't want him driving.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I know that sounds awful because it's Stan Lee and he's getting up there, but I'm just saying, it could be that.
Was
then
it weirder
he's
than
lucky
the
he
Ant-Man
found the
cameo,
address.
though?
I don't remember who he was in Ant-Man. I only saw
What did he
Ant-Man
do in the
years. I
Ant-Man?
haven't rewatched.
I can't remember what he did in that.
Oh, wait, no, I didn't mean Ant-Man. I meant Daredevil. Or not Daredevil, oh my god, Deadpool. Wow.
Oh.
I just got off work.
Okay.
What was it in
Not in
there?
Ant-Man. I don't remember what it is in Ant-Man now, but no, it was in
What the
Deadpool.
heck?
Well, the Deadpool one is just kind of a little bit more risque version of what he did in Iron Man 3.
Okay, we're kind of.
Well, we're gonna need you to get. We're gonna need you to get into the Marvel Cinematic Universe with us.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so let's hear now from Rascal.
Okay, so when I came out of this movie the first time, I thought that for me, it felt like a really flawed good movie. Like, I really liked it, but it felt really flawed. And the more I've thought about it, the more it is that it's not really flawed. And it's not like it's a movie. Well, it is flawed, but it's not like a movie that's like riddled with tons of flaws in it, but you can still overlook it and like see the good. It's a really good movie. There's just a few things that really kind of get me and like take me out of it that I'm not sure how I actually feel about. So for the most part, I really like the movie, but there's a few things that like really hold it back for me and give me kind of like a reservation in my head. So I'm not really sure how I'll feel about this movie in 2 weeks. But so my favorite thing in this movie was definitely Black Panther. I think that after this movie, I don't know how anyone is not excited to see Black Panther. And I think that he was in this movie just enough to where he felt intricate to the plot in a way that a lot of things when we're setting up future films don't necessarily. I think Age of Ultron struggled a bit setting up certain things moving forward, especially with like Thor and stuff like that. And now, but with this, it made it intricate to the plot. Like, Black Panther is a part of this story, and by the end of the movie, he has a total arc. So they made setting up a future film integral to the story. So it wasn't just like a take it or leave it thing. It was completely necessary to have him in here. So my least favorite thing is just a few, and I'm not sure because I could be wrong about this. So I'm eager I want to talk about this later, but it's just Zemo. There's a few things that I don't know, because overall I love Zemo, but I don't know if a few of his things are just him. Like, I don't know how he knows that certain things are going to go according to his plan. Like when he gets everyone in the world looking for Bucky, they're all trying to find Bucky. How does he know that like somebody with shoot to kill orders doesn't kill Bucky, and then Bucky doesn't wind up being just shot on sight, and then he never gets to speak to Bucky? Or how does he know that they'll even bring him to that location if they capture him, to where he can be in the same room as Bucky? I also don't know how he knows that Iron Man will show up with Cap at the Hydra bunker at the ending of the movie to see that video. And maybe it makes sense, but I don't think it does. And other than that, I love Zemo, and I'm so excited because I think Zemo can kind of be like our next Loki, where he sticks around in the Marvel Universe, and he actually is like a character that people come to really know and appreciate.
Has a mask?
He kind of metaphorically wears a mask because he pretends to be Bucky, and that's like his
This
mask.
whole movie, he's pretending to be other people. It makes perfect sense. And hiding. It makes perfect sense for him to wear a mask.
True. But yeah, so that's what I have to say.
He's also, Eric, just as I suspected, set up to easily come back at some point and have a mask later.
Yeah, that's why it
But
doesn't
just
bother
as
me.
I
Could still
suspected,
happen.
he should have had a mask in this movie. It would have made perfect sense. In fact, there is a scene that I think would be better and make more sense if he had a mask. But we can talk about that when it's not somebody else's turn.
But he's spending most of the time pretending to be other people. So why would he wear a mask?
Okay. Because anytime he's doing anything and he doesn't want people to see him, he should be wearing a mask so nobody knows who he is. And there's this scene, it's the most contrived scene in the entire movie, where they run through this weird, like, Independence Day train of logic where they're like, why would somebody release a picture of Bucky to flush Bucky out? Well, how would they know flushing Bucky out would mean that they got him? well, it would just mean that we got him, and then they look up and immediately they know the interrogator is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And if I made the movie, and then Steve runs in and Zemo's on the ground, and he's like, "Please help me," and Cap just picks him up and he goes, "Who are you?" If I made the movie to make that scene work, when the power goes out and Zemo starts reading the code words, he tears off his fake person face and reveals that he's got a Zemo mask underneath. And then when Cap runs in, there's a dude in a supervillain mask, so clearly he's the bad guy.
And I still think you're just trying to come up with some way for it to look more like the comic books, because you need everyone that wore a mask in the comics to wear a mask in a movie. You really want to this movie do it? So he takes off a person mask? They don't wear them often enough. Like, you can't win.
Crossbones wear a mask on top of his mask.
That's true. Okay, well, I got real quick. Eric, I gotta ask you that. Did you like Crossbones' costume?
I loved Crossbones' costume. I mean, it's
I figured you complained about that for some reason.
What it was, I really liked it.
Oh, okay. That surprises me. I figured you'd have some like giant complaint about it that I didn't notice.
No, actually, the fight between him and Cap is one of my favorite parts of the movie. I think it feels like a really classic like supervillain fight. Like, I don't know if we've really seen in the movie where it's just like, you dropped a building on my face, revenge.
Whoa, something skipped for me. Like I have no idea. There was like, I don't know if you guys had this. There was this giant skip in what Eric was saying, and I don't know what the end of that was, so I'll have to go back and watch the show and find out, probably. Let's hear now from the Curious Low.
Okay, so I really liked this movie. I agree with sort of what people have been saying, that there are definitely some things that weren't amazing. For me, it felt very long, and it wasn't in any of the action sequences, because I know that's sort of like the stereotypical place where things start to feel like they're taking forever. It was more, I think, in between the airport fight and like the final confrontation. I sort of felt like, okay, we've had this big fight, and like I want it to keep moving. And I don't really know how they would fix it, because I don't feel like anything was not warranted. Like, I think that all the scenes certainly had to be there. But for whatever reason, I just was starting to feel like I was kind of drifting as far as paying attention after that point. That would probably be my worst thing, is I felt like the pacing was a little off for me. Best thing for me, and I'm really glad I got to go with, just put me to shame with this, was Spider-Man. I really liked Spider-Man in this. I thought he was cast brilliantly. I really liked everything that they did with his character. I personally am really excited to see where they're going with him, and I think it's something interesting that we haven't seen in the movies, with him not necessarily being just like the only superhero and there's nobody else in the universe. It's going to be a different dynamic for sure. But I'm quite excited for Peter Parker going forward. So I quite enjoyed everything with him, and I liked how they added him into the story.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
So I love this movie. I think it's amazing, but yeah, it definitely has its flaws. My worst thing was going to be some things about Zemo's plan, because it actually has the exact same plot hole that Winter Soldier does, and I can't believe the Russo brothers made that mistake twice, especially after being called out on it. Because in Winter Soldier, the issue is, if Hydra's been inside S.H.I.E.L.D. the whole time, how did Tony not figure that out when he hacked the computers in the Avengers? And they just forgot about it, that's why. And here it's exactly the same thing, where if all the Hydra S.H.I.E.L.D. information's in the public, how come people didn't figure out the same things Zemo figured out about Tony Stark's parents and such?
Well, Zemo says it's super encrypted, and that it took him a really long time, it was really hard, but that he did decrypt it.
Does he say it's encrypted? Okay, well...
He also has a military background, so maybe
he makes a big deal out of that.
Okay, just making sure. All right, but then there's still the Rascal stuff about the
yeah,
plot.
when he does what may be the darkest execution I've ever seen in a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, no, that was good. Okay. I just want to make sure
that execution scene made my wife ask me to maybe not take my son. She was like, I don't know if Jason can see that. I'm like, look, he missed Batman v Superman. Like, I I don't know how to not take him to that. I was like, I'll shield his eyes or something. Like I don't even think he understood what was going on in that scene. That's the beauty of that. Is that like it is really super dark, but like I don't know if a really little kid is going to put two and two together and really know what's going on there.
Well, and that's one of the things with this movie is it kind of does a balancing act of parts of this movie are super kid appropriate and super kid friendly, and other parts less so. Other parts are more like The Dark Knight.
Yeah, well, and I thought Winter Soldier really had that too. I mean, I think of Winter Soldier. I compare Winter Soldier to Dark Knight a lot, and this was taking some of its cues from that in the dark places. But anyway, I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
All right, so even so, there are still some flaws with Zemo's logic, even though he's an incredible villain. So rather, I'll make my worst thing Curious Low's best thing. I don't like Spider-Man.
I knew this was coming. That's not news. That's not news.
You're here.
I don't like Spider-Man. Eric says that if you recut this a little bit, add some things, take some things away, it could be the greatest superhero film ever made. If you take out Spider-Man, you take out Ant-Man that have no purpose in this movie whatsoever.
Ant-Man was fantastic, though.
You cut both of those characters out, and you take all the extra screen time you get from shortening those fights and adding Zemo and maybe some Black Panther stuff. All of it would make 100 times more sense. It would be amazing if you could just spend like some maybe extra 10-15 minutes on Zemo's plot and get rid of Spider-Man entirely.
But Spider-Man I can see.
Because I know Eric's got stuff he wants to say there.
No, Steve, let me stop you for a second. You've done it again. We're like with the Spider-Man thing. I can see where you're coming from, and I'm not on your side yet, but like I can see what you're saying, and like I can sympathize, and then you completely lose me with Ant-Man. You can't lose Ant-Man.
What is Ant-Man doing?
Because the Giant Man thing is.
Hold on. They didn't know he can turn into Giant Man. What is Ant-Man doing here in this, one, a family squabble, two, a fight that he already has both Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye and Bucky and Falcon and himself, and on top of that, all he really has in stake in this fight is that he gets to meet Captain America. There's no emotion.
I can tell you why Ant-Man's here. More than Spider-Man, I can tell you why Ant-Man's here. Because Cap didn't make a team to fight other superheroes. Cap made a team to go after Zemo.
Exactly, but I don't think
his team isn't assembled to fight the other heroes.
But I don't think he needs Ant-Man for that. Like, I don't think you need Ant-Man in this movie. If you want to add more parallels to him, you can. But as he is in this movie, there's no reason for him to be here.
So, Steve,
I have a chance to hang out with Paul Rudd, I'm going to hang out with Paul Rudd.
So I can see that, like you saying that maybe Ant-Man doesn't need to be there. I don't think you were saying that, like, if you cut him out, you could, like, get so much more time. I don't think that Ant-Man really took any time away from anyone else. I think that fight would have been just as long as it was. Really, he was there for, like, some fun punches and stuff. Obviously, he doesn't add anything to the plot. He was there for, like, a glorified cameo, I feel like. And I don't think that taking him out or leaving him in there really does anything to the plot. I can see where you're coming from with Spider-Man, because he was there and there was, like, plot stuff that happened with him leading up to that.
Okay.
And I think Ant-Man and Spider-Man bring the exact same energy. We have two people who are fanboys. They're really excited to be there. And I think a lot of their jokes, you could switch and would make it just as much sense. You could just as easily have had Ant-Man get out of that van, look over at Bucky and go, "Oh, you have a metal arm? That's awesome." I feel like they bring the same energy, and you only need one of them.
And that's the thing about both Spider-Man and Ant-Man. The Russo brothers have talked about in an interview that the only reason both those characters were there in the capacity that they were is because they wanted to add more levity to the movie. So Ant-Man is exclusively there for humor, even if they managed to rope him in better for plot reasons. But okay, that's all. That's just all my worst things. But the best thing, because I do still love this movie, I still think it's an incredible movie, is that these are actually some of the most complex superhero motivations I've ever seen on film. There are a lot of people that are just taking that one scene with the Sokovia Accords and saying Steve talking about the right to choose with Tony talking about accountability and acting like that's the extent of this conflict, and it's not. Everything with Peggy dying, everything with Pepper leaving, everything with Sharon being there and Bucky being the symbol for what's going on Steve's side and Black Panther being the symbol for what's going on Tony's side. This is an absolutely incredible psychological treatise on superheroes. And if nothing else, the conflict between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers is one of the best written conflicts in any superhero film I've ever seen.
Crickets.
I'm not sure how bad our lag is, because I was trying to get in on that argument with Ant-Man, and I did not get a chance to say what I wanted to there. I feel like, so I got to say this real quick, even though I feel like I'm backtracking, and I apologize for that. But Steve, the reason I wanted to fight you on that a little bit is because I feel like, I mean, I agree with you that it is the same thing kind of as Spider-Man, where they feel a little shoehorned in, and I don't even mean just like from on the part of the directors. I mean on the part of like the people who recruit them, where it's like, did you really need them? Like could you not have gone into that fight with 5 instead of 6? Like, did you have to have and like they have so much in common, right? Like they're both they're
Bugs.
They're both bugs. That's the first thing I was gonna say. They're both, which is just hilarious. On each side, you have to have an insect-themed superhero, and then they're both wet behind the ears and very, very new to this. They're both there, kind of for the field trip of it all more than anything. And I guess my argument is, I'm kind of okay with the fact that if you have to shoehorn somebody in also on the other side, is the thing, because it brings this kind of like levity balance to the whole thing. But I also on each side, like, you know, we've talked a little bit about how Spider-Man has. Well, at least you and I talked about this earlier, Steve, today. How you know, Spider-Man is there for some thematic reasons. I mean, Ant-Man is too. There's a reason that we've got a criminal on Captain America's side, and I think that's really interesting. He also has in common the fact that both of them will do the responsible thing, even if it's not exactly legal, which is why it's going to be really interesting moving forward that Spider-Man was on that side, because I don't think he'll always be on that side. I think he's a young kid that, like I said, is wet behind the ears and doesn't really know what he's doing, and he actually doesn't ideologically line up with Iron Man at all. And so that's really interesting. But anyway, so I don't know. I was really glad Ant-Man was there, but then also I can't help it. The Giant Man thing. It was kind of the. I mean, yeah, it's a big crowd-pleasing thing, but it's one of the most comic book things I've ever seen on screen, and kind of, you know. When I was a kid, I never thought I'd seen anything like that. It was a really
I'm
big
willing
deal.
to concede Ant-Man on a taste thing. My thing more so, when I'm talking about the worst thing, though, is there were elements of this movie, like Spider-Man, and for me, Ant-Man, that if you just take away and get some extra time, everything about the story that doesn't make sense could have had time to make sense. That's really just the root of my problem.
Well, can I build on that and give my...
Let me say this real quick, though. I would make the argument that it's such a big movie, it could have gotten away with being even longer. And I know Lowe's not going to agree with that, but I think it could have gotten away with another 15, 20 minutes. So I don't think the answer is to take things out, Steve. I think the answer is to spend more time with Zemo. So forget taking things out. I mean, like they probably are worried about runtime. But in a thing this big with this many characters that you want to give, and I mean, I think that this is my best thing. I think that this is the best juggling act ever on screen for a whole bunch of characters that you want this many of them to actually get complete story arcs, like character arcs, incredibly economical. The fact that I actually bought everything that happened with Black Panther, that he got an actual arc by the end, and that I found him sympathetic, and I liked him all the way through, astounding, amazing. Yeah, let it be 15, 20 more minutes. I think you've earned it. I mean, that's a credit to the movie. Let it be longer.
Can I counterpoint a little with
yes,
because I have a big pitch for how to fix this movie in my eyes. First one is you cut out Sharon Carter. She just does not need to be there. And her, if there's anyone in the audience who needs to be inspired right now, I have this speech of inspiration at the funeral is a really teeth-grindingly groaning speech for me.
To be fair, that speech was straight from the comics, and Steve said it.
But it doesn't
the comics
be in the movie.
I know, I'm just saying, it was straight from the comic, and, in the comic, Steve said it, so I think it would have been worse if Steve said it.
Was it from Civil War?
Yeah.
No, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, then that also explains why I didn't like it. But so
at least you're consistent.
I would cut that out. I would cut Spider-Man entirely, regardless of how enjoyable he is, because I have a lot of issues with Spider-Man. The performance is not one of them. I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I would cut him out. he grinds this film to a halt. We are moving forward, and then we just stop for a 10-minute scene of Peter Parker and Tony Stark talking. I would cut him entirely, and I would cut the fight in half. I know it's what everyone came to see. I know it's the big, like, trailer moment. That fight is too long. Every single, like, you could take 10 seconds of every single. You could break that movie into 10-second bits, and every single one of them are a great little moment. I don't think there are, except for the Empire Strikes Back thing, I don't think there's anything in that fight that doesn't work. I just think it's too much. It's sugar. There's too much of it. It's too long. And then to the fact that the ending of the fight is this isn't the real fight, and then the fight keeps going for like 5 more minutes. It's not important to this movie. I would cut it in half. I don't think they have to take out Giant Man. He makes this big deal about how hard it is to become Giant Man. Make him grow big, make that be the big moment where Cap leaves, and then have him pass out. They don't need to take him down. I would cut that fight in half, and then I would take all of the screen time that I have freed up, and I would give it to Zemo, because Zemo needs more to do in this movie. I don't agree with you, Cap, that you just tack 15 more minutes on. I think a lot of this stuff is just poorly paced and drags. And while it can be enjoyable, it's still grinding the story to a halt. So, okay, yeah, that's my big piece on the film. That's everything I have to say, mostly.
We can continue to argue, I'm sure. Before we move forward, I just feel the need to say that knowing that Eric and I will still be friends after this, that at this moment, and again, I could be turned around on more viewings, more discussions. Eric and I haven't talked about this movie at all yet.
No, we've not.
But I disagree with almost everything you just said, and it's like bothering me because I don't usually have this much contention with Eric, and I'm getting really flustered right now. And I just feel like you guys just give me a second. I feel like I'm gonna need to eat some orange slices. I don't. This is gonna be a tough.
I want somebody to come from the other side. I want not in like an angry way. I just want somebody to explain to me a different point of view.
Okay, Eric, I'm gonna make it. Talk about the Carter thing a little bit, because I hadn't even thought of that. I guess I see where you're coming from. All of that really worked for me, but
Sharon was one of my favorite bits of the film.
Yeah, I disagree with Eric in that I like Sharon, but everything else I'm on his side.
Okay, I'm going to say this, though. Eric, I would love to know, and obviously, you're never going to have enough time to do this, like, actually back-to-back without sleeping. The problem with these movies at this point is that you can't look at them completely as singular pieces anymore. And when you say that it slows the story down, that the pacing is really wonky, I don't know that you would feel that way as much, or that you would want to see as much cut if you were to watch everything all the way up and look at this as part of a greater whole. That's my thing. Like a lot of the things that I'm hearing people make about this movie seem to be, and things that people have said about previous movies as their own singular pieces. I keep stopping and having like two minds about it, where I'm like, well, yes, does kind of need to stand on its own. At the same time, we are very much in comic book land, and this is how comic books are the stories are told and paced and stuff. So I don't know, like,
but I think if you made all the changes that I said, it's still, this is a sequel to everything that's come before. This plot is rooted in the previous films. I don't think the changes that I'm suggesting undo that.
No, they don't, but here's the problem. Moving forward, right? Like this is part of also a greater whole and a greater story that isn't finished yet. So
which is another problem I have.
Yeah. Once you have this movie, you might not think that. I don't know.
This movie kind of kills my excitement for Phase 3. Because after this movie, walking out of this movie, I don't care about Doctor Strange. I don't care about Captain Marvel. I don't care about really the Spider-Man movie, but that's other issues. I want the Fallout movies from this. I want to see a Scarlet Witch Vision movie. I want a Black Widow movie. I kind of want just a Falcon and Winter Soldier movie. Well, I guess that's not possible after this. I need an Iron Man 4. I just want a bunch of Fallout movies because everyone is left in such a complex place after this film. I don't want to stop and like reset and introduce all these new characters. I want to keep going with this story.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And the thing is, I think in a way you will, but to your point, yeah, I mean, like, I was super excited about the status quo we have at the end of this because let me just say this: when I first heard they were going to do Civil War, which was not really surprising, that was one of the stories I figured that they would adapt at some point, but not this early. The first reservation I had was, how do you do that in 2 or 2.5 hours and have and like resolve everything and wrap it up in a bow at the end, like I know you will. That's not what they did. You get to the end, and nothing's really been resolved between some characters, sure, but we're still fractured, just as we should be, and it just as it makes sense.
But my issue with that is now I want to follow those fractures. I don't want to have to wait 2-3 years to pick up on all these threads, and I'm really worried that Black Panther is going to be overstuffed as a sequel to this, and it's not going to be a good, just standalone Black Panther film.
Yeah, no, I totally see why you'd say that. Yeah, that is a concern. Honestly, and fight me on this, Eric, because I know you and Steve are really happy with Iron Man all the way up, but I'm not sure I buy where Iron Man is at the beginning of this, and maybe it's just because of assumptions I made at the end of Ultron, but when they set up the new Avengers team, he jumps in a car and drives away, and I kind of sort of thought it was because he wasn't sure how the world was going to react to what just happened with the, death robot thing he just created.
Okay, I had
a really hard time buying he'd be where he was at the beginning of this.
It makes complete sense, but it recontextualizes both the ending of Iron Man 3 and of Avengers Age of Ultron.
Right.
Because at the end of Age of Ultron, at the end of Iron Man 3, in our commentary, we talked about that this clearly isn't supposed to be him quitting. This is recontextualizing it and saying, yes, it is. That was him saying he was quitting. And the end of Ultron is him saying he's quitting, and he can't. He just keeps doing it, and Pepper's tired of it. I think that's a really fascinating place.
No, I completely understand that. Here's what I don't get. It has, in a way, of course, it's much, much smarter about it. In a way, it has the same problem the comic has, which is we're acting like because we don't have specific laws about superheroes, we don't have the regular laws we have. He would have been prosecuted for what he did, or there would have been talk about it.
For what?
Because he can be held responsible for everything Ultron did.
But does the world actually know Tony Stark made Ultron? The moment Ultron created his lab, he doesn't even realize it. He shows up out of nowhere and starts attacking. As far as the rest of the world's concerned, Ultron just shows up. Only the Avengers know Tony created him.
Steve, but people would have to be suspicious because of all of the Stark drones.
No, I'm not saying they.
And because
we only see Stark drones in the Avengers Mansion attack them.
No, they have Stark drones that they've already sent to other countries at the beginning of that movie.
No, they have.
Those aren't Ultron Stark drones, is what I mean. We only see evil Stark drones in the Avengers Mansion.
Ultron armor, and they're two separate things.
I get that, and who else in the world is capable of making a thing like this?
Ultron. Ultron has a scene where he goes to Sokovia and builds those robots.
Yeah, I know, but who created Ultron? Are you saying that people wouldn't know that Ultron is an AI in the first place?
No,
I don't think
they wouldn't know Ultron was created by Tony Stark. There is literally no evidence whatsoever for the rest of the world to think Ultron is anything but his own thing.
I'm going to make the case that like folks in comments and live, feel free to rebut me on this or tell me if you agree with me. I would be really surprised if I'm the only person that has been wondering this, and I think those movies should have made that a great deal more explicit, because I did not come to the conclusion you guys are coming to.
But I mean
even in Ultron, we see news reports where they're blaming the Avengers for the destruction caused by the attacks with Hulk. But no one is blaming Tony for Ultron. No one knows that he did that.
Yeah, I
we
mean,
have news reports where we are trashing the Avengers, but not Tony Stark for Ultron.
yeah, I mean, it's literally just the film is saying that no one knows what Ultron is or where he came from. Like, there's that's just the way it was in that movie. Ultron, when he goes and makes those armors, he's making them out of the remnants of Hydra. So if anything, people probably think Ultron's made from Hydra.
Well, yeah, okay. So my so the way I interpreted the beginning of that movie was wrong, because it didn't occur to me that he was leaving just to reassess. I thought he was leaving because people were going to have issues with him, not trust him, and he needed to get out of Dodge.
No, he's quitting because that's why we fight, so we can go home.
Yeah, and by the end of that, he's living with his mistake. At the end of Age of Ultron, it's not a matter of, like, he has to get away. It's a matter of, like, that's his repentance.
Yeah, okay. We need to get on to some other things, obviously. Rascal, we have not talked to the audience. We had the same problem with the Batman v Superman Spoilercast. We have not talked to the audience whatsoever. There goes Jason. That's Jason's cameo. In case this ends up going
He's already
longer,
shown up once.
in case this ends up going longer than we intend, and you can't go too long, but just so people understand, if we had cut that out, we would have really gained no time at all. So I just want to throw that out there. We would gain no time at all. Rascal, would you look at the comments and see if there are anything stuff people are saying about anything we're saying, arguing with us, or any interesting comments, and anything people are bringing up that they really want us to talk about. Folks in the comments, feel free to start leaving your questions and comments and help direct our conversation. Make sure that we talk about the bits of the film that you're hoping that we get to.
Okay, so I have something here that kind of relates back to Spider-Man and a few other things, because it just, moving forward, it might affect the things. So this is from Ricardo Limas, and he says, so will that be a thing? Like, will the registration thing stick to future movies?
Yes, clearly. Yeah, it's law.
I'm apparently already dealing with it in the next episode, but I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, great.
Like, apparently the Inhumans are supposed to start getting registered or something.
Which is weird, because in the film, I got the implication this was just about the Avengers.
Yes.
Well, I think the idea is that the Accords are there because of the Avengers, but it also sets a precedent for anyone that comes after them or that are like them. Because that's the way that law would be written, right? It wouldn't just be written for a specific scenario. It would be written for that scenario and any future versions of that ever happening again.
How great would it be if they wrote that law for the Avengers, and then all the Avengers had just got together and we're the invaders now. None of those laws apply to us.
But here's the thing with that, so is the government gonna now? Can the government go to? So if Spider-Man has to register, so does Tony now go to Spider-Man and say, "Hey, look, you gotta register," and then he does, and then he goes, "Okay, can the government now send this freshman in high school on missions to save people all over the globe? Like, can the government make you do that now?"
That's my big reservation with Spider-Man.
And they have to know, why would they even allow this kid to be registered with the government in that way? Because they know he's a kid, or
how do those Accords not have?
Well, he doesn't sign. I don't know if he's registered.
I know, but why would Tony not? So is Tony being a hypocrite? Because at the same time, Spider-Man also doesn't seem like he would align with that at all. It seems like Spider-Man would resist that, because Spider-Man's saying, look, when you can stop something bad from happening and you don't, it's your fault that happened. That's what he pretty much said to Tony.
Spider-Man doesn't seem to understand what's going on at all.
No.
Yeah,
because when he gets there, he says, or Cap says, "You know what's going on." He says you're wrong, and you think you're right. So I don't think Spider-Man knows.
No, he doesn't, and that's why. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the Spider-Man thing, Eric, because I know earlier you said that you're looking less forward to Homecoming because of this. I honestly don't think. I kind of think it's going to play out or I'm hoping. I mean, maybe this is wishful thinking, but it seems like the most logical place to take this is for it to work out the way it did in the comics with Fantastic Four, where he tries to be with the Avengers and it doesn't take. I kind of think that once he figures out what exactly is going on, he's going to go on his own, and then all of your issues with he can just get money from Tony Stark and that kind of thing go away. I don't think he's going to still be aligned with Tony Stark after the first couple acts of the next movie.
But I don't want that to be my Spider-Man movie. If they, because Marvel is obsessed with teenage status quo Peter Parker. if we're going to go so far away from that, then just give me my 25-year-old married Spider-Man. Because this isn't traditional status quo Peter Parker. He lives in an apartment, which is completely different than living in a house. You live in an apartment complex in New York City, people come and go at all hours. It is way harder to sneak in and out without anyone noticing. I don't like Aunt May, and I have 3 people on Twitter that messaged me and says, we have to talk about hot Aunt May. The exact words is, we have to talk about hot Aunt May.
Is your issue that she's not hot enough? Like, you just don't think she's attractive enough? Is that your thing?
That woman is 51, and she looks maybe 33. I don't really know Marissa Tomei. I just know her as a name. I didn't even know that she was Aunt May. But when she showed up on screen, I was like, who is this 30-year-old Aunt May here? She looks amazing. And I don't like that the film makes fun of people that didn't like her casting by saying, Tony says, like, you're so hot, I can't believe you're someone's aunt. I was like, no one's issue is that she's someone's aunt. It's that she is Aunt May. And she just seems really, like, hip and cool in a way that, like, I don't see Aunt May. She felt more like the aunt from Big Hero 6.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I agree with you that Tony shouldn't have had that line. It's like, well, yeah, and like she even says that, Ant's coming all shades. It's almost like she's saying, you just said a line where you're just saying what the audience that's watching us is thinking. I don't even know why you said that line. No, I don't know why that was there. But I kind of argued about this with my wife, because I had the same thing you did, Eric, where I was like, I don't know, maybe we're going a little bit too far with that, just because at what point isn't she that character anymore? And it's kind of funny because like in now 3 different versions of Spider-Man movies, we have dropped her 20 or 30 years every time. My wife was like, well, I never understood why Aunt May was so old. Like, how old were his parents?
Well, that's kind of fair, but that's not who the character is. Like that, and May is always the older sister. And even in Ultimate, and I love Ultimate. In Ultimate, I would say she's like somewhere between 50 and 60. The problem is Marissa Tomei doesn't look her age. And we constantly cast people how they look. We cast 26-year-olds as 16-year-olds because they look young. We are visually taught by cinema to associate how you look with how old you are, and so because she looks so young, she feels really young.
Well, and to your point, in case people are just being a comic purist, to your point from something you said in the conversation we had, and well, I said that we haven't talked about this. We haven't talked about this like outside of text, but we had a small text conversation earlier. Eric said that that the problem is you can't do comic book high school Peter Parker stories because he doesn't have the kinds of problems he usually would, i.e. Aunt May, like one of the examples being that Aunt May isn't gonna probably be the ailing aunt all the time because she's so young.
Yeah, well, and if she is, he can just call Tony Stark. Like, I don't think he's gonna call Tony Stark every time he needs like milk money. But he's not above accepting help because he accepts the costume. And I think if Aunt May is in a serious, like she has a heart attack or something like that, like she did every 4 issues in the Lee Ditko comics, there is no tension because he can just call Tony Stark and say, hey, I can't afford these medical bills. Can you help me out, man? I'm 16.
Rascal and Lowe, you guys... where are you guys on this Spider-Man thing? I forget. Rascal, did you say you're okay with them on the fence, or?
The thing is, there's a few things with Spider-Man that I totally like. I can totally see exactly everything that people have that Eric and Steve don't like about Spider-Man. And it's a thing where I just don't know if I agree that it necessarily, like, I just don't know if it really detracts and makes Spider-Man not work for me yet because we still don't know what's going to happen next with Spider-Man. We could have a Spider-Man movie because we know apparently Tony Stark's going to be in Spider-Man Homecoming. We could have a Spider-Man movie perhaps all about the things that we're talking about right now. All of this stuff that we're complaining about and things. we could literally have a movie dealing with this. I don't know, but the thing is, I just don't know exactly why Tony would. It just seems like it doesn't. They didn't do a good enough job like weaving Spider-Man into the story in a believable way for me, because Tony, I don't understand why Tony would be like, oh, this teenager, I'm gonna go to him and I'm going to encourage his vigilantism, and it's like, I see what he's doing. Like, I guess I kind of like that, but at the same time, like, Tony's in a mode right now where he's all about responsibility with power and giving a kid the go-ahead to go ahead and be a superhero doesn't seem, especially when you're dealing with superpowered people and like not watching out for like what's around them and potentially hurting other people that are just like in the crossfire. I don't understand why Tony would go ahead and give the thumbs up to this kid necessarily.
See, that's my thing with it. Future Spider-Man in general, I will worry about when we get there, but the issue for me is just he's in this movie and he's got some decent parallels, but ultimately it doesn't naturally come from here. I mean, the moment Spider-Man shows up, Iron Man takes off his mask and starts pleading with Steve Rogers over this thing. This is a
it's a jarring tonal shift.
Spider-Man there, and then when Spider-Man like interrupts that flow, it just doesn't work for me. This is literally a brother telling his brother, "Stop making me fight you," and then Spider-Man shows up, and I don't need that.
No, we have Tony talking to Peter, and Peter's really funny and he's really cute, and then Tony turns. Or no, Steve says, "You've been busy." And then Tony switches like a light switch and goes, "Yeah, so have you." And like it's a completely different energy.
Exactly.
The thing about, I have less issues with Spider-Man like being in that fight. That's not what bothers me. It's more just character stuff with Spider-Man and like thought process of like what Tony must have been thinking.
Well, and there's something that Steve and I have talked about, because
practically he makes sense though, because if you're trying to stop super soul, like, you have at least 2 super soldiers and a guy who can fly trying to escape. A guy who can specifically spray web to like tie people's hands up. That would be especially useful in that scenario. I can see practical ways why it would make sense to bring him there.
You could also just buy the web fluid.
Yeah.
You could also just go to his apartment and buy the web fluid off him.
Yeah.
Well,
I just thought of that.
But he's very efficient with it, and he's a super powered person.
He's good at it. He's got other powers. Importantly, here's the thing. Wouldn't this been really awkward for Spider-Man, because Tony didn't know if that was a power or not when he got there. He asked him that, and he discovers what it is. It would be really funny if he was like, oh, you mean you could just make that? Okay, here's like $20,000.
Well, what if it was the Sam Raimi Spider-Man?
Yeah. Well, if it was Sam Raimi Spider-Man, he'd have to do what he did.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But Steve and I have actually talked about this movie a lot. I talked to Capital, but Steve and I have talked about this movie a lot. And something that we kind of came to about Spider-Man is that Spider-Man being in this movie hugely widens the divide between Marvel TV and Marvel film. It makes way more sense if this is Jessica Jones. Or Daredevil, but I think Jessica Jones a little bit more because she's in the phone book.
Oh, that's such a good point. Stop ruining this thing for me. Okay, here's the thing. I think Spider-Man is, well, and this maybe is indisputable, his being here is a political move, right? It's
bragging. I don't think it's a political move. I think it's bragging.
I don't know about that. I think, well, okay, that's... I can see you're interpreting it that way. I was just looking at it more as they want to get Spider-Man in the limelight on their, in their continuity to get people excited. I can understand why they would feel the need to introduce him someplace else before just putting him in a movie. It's a little bit of a risk, but it's less risky than just giving him a movie, because if they put him here and people like him, you can't tell me that movie's not going to perform better because of this. There are complaints, and there are certainly big Spider-Man fans that don't like this, but I think that by and large it was smart business. That's
my problem.
It is a commercial decision, and the thing is, I think we all kind of knew it was going to be that way going in. So, my being used to that idea, I'm looking at it as it's as good or better than I would have expected it to be. I'm not. Yeah. But listen to me. You wouldn't have had that because the whole reason they put him there was to get Spider-Man in this movie. So it's not like they needed some superhero that's running around and put that person in there. You're right.
They both knew that each team had 6 people.
A lot better. Yeah, but they didn't know how many the other side was going to have. That's what's so funny about that. It's like 66. Oh, that's convenient. But yeah, Spider-Man is a totally commercial thing. I was impressed that there was any thematic tie-in whatsoever. I was also really impressed with how the origin was slightly worked in, where he doesn't have to talk about it. We all know what it is, and when he starts talking about the responsibility thing, you understand why he's doing what he's doing, and you also understand that he doesn't know with Tony what it is he's doing. It was. I'm appreciating all your arguments about it, but it was so much better handled than it could have been. My argument is, yeah, maybe that wasn't the place to do this, and I think Tony is weird for going to a 16-year-old kid. I also thought the carbon dating line was weird. It was like, oh, what do you think? I didn't carbon date the kid. It's like, well, yeah, you would have looked into who was, how old he was.
I hate the Empire line.
I think he's lying to them.
That Empire line.
No, he probably is.
Like, he's like, oh God, what if I tell them that I just brought a kid to fight a bunch of superheroes?
Yeah,
like,
you're right. He's embarrassed in that moment. Yeah, I thought of that too.
Rhodey doesn't know clearly.
Yeah, that was fun. So, Eric, what's your complaint about the Star Wars thing? Because I don't understand what the problem is. Except that we've referenced Star Wars like 100 times in the Marvel Cinematic Universe just because Disney has that license. So like that's the only thing I can see to complain about. But
Peter is the geeky kid. He would never say that old movie Empire Strikes Back. Like I could see that old movie Logan's Run, that old movie The Thing. And 6 months after The Force Awakens, no way does a teenager in 2016 say, have you guys seen that old movie, Empire Strikes Back?
I don't think any teenager since that movie comes out. Star Wars is so popular.
Okay, true, but here's the thing. One, Peter, we don't know, I guess, how long he's been raised by his aunt and his uncle. He is dirt poor. His computer, I don't even know if he has the internet. He definitely doesn't have a phone. I mean, I wouldn't think he has a phone. He's dirt poor in this movie. If he doesn't have a phone and he's been raised by like his aunt,
he has VHSs and he doesn't even know new movies exist.
Yeah, he would know old movies before new ones.
It is possible. But it is kind of weird. It is kind of stupid.
Eric, I kind of forgot about that line. That is not what I thought you were going to say. I'm absolutely 100% with you. I thought you were going to complain just that they did the Walker thing. Like I thought you just didn't like that. I thought that was fun.
I thought that was really funny. I thought that was a great comparison. I just didn't like how it was delivered. I feel like it would have made more sense to go like really specific and obscure and be like, this kid's really geeky. Yeah. Like, have him reference, like, hey, do you guys remember that Twilight Zone episode? Like, no, I don't remember a random Twilight Zone episode.
Even if he just brings up Empire Strikes Back in the middle of a fight,
do you guys remember?
You would still be like, how old is this kid? Why is he talking about Star Wars right now? Like, they didn't even need to make it really old movie.
At least Tony immediately knew what he was talking about. At least Tony didn't need to listen to the rest of his spiel before he was like, "Oh, I see what he's talking about."
What
I'm saying is that they at least didn't make everybody that out of touch. Like that would have been really strange. But yeah, Twilight Zone would have been great. If he was like, "Well, look everybody, it's on Netflix. It's what I use my allowance for."
Or TOS, if he was just like, hey, do you guys, like, if it was really specific and geeky, where it was like, hey, do you guys remember that TOS episode? And they're like, what's TOS? And he's like, Star Trek? Oh!
And he uses
I don't know, it really bugs me that he's
Spider-Man uses the Corbomite maneuver on Zemo, and then that's how the movie ends.
I think we need to let Lo talk about Spider-Man.
Yes, we do.
Lo.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm backtracking a little bit here. As far as the age thing, and again, I feel like I always bring this up, but I feel like it's relevant to my point of view. I haven't read a ton of comics. I haven't read a ton of Spider-Man. I'm reading a lot of current Spider-Man stuff, but I don't have any of that going into this. So what I'm basing it on is just what I've seen and what I've been presented with. As far as the age thing with Aunt May, For me, I bought it pretty much right off the bat, mostly because I personally have siblings that are 14 and 15 years younger than me. So, like, if I were to have a kid and then grow up and die and my siblings were one of my siblings was taking care of my kids, that would be sort of the age gap between them. So I bought that right away. Again, I know that maybe doesn't line up with the comics, but it doesn't bother me that she's so young on principle in general, or that she's like the hot aunt or whatever.
Sister.
Obviously, in this, she isn't. But also, isn't Aunt May? No, but isn't Uncle Ben the one that's related to Peter Parker's dad? I thought that was how they were related. So I thought that.
No, Aunt May is related to Peter's mom. They're sisters.
Oh, okay. See? But, I mean, like, so they make her the younger sister in this. I feel like that's, and again, I haven't read the comics a lot, so I don't know if this is, like, a huge thing in the comics, but I feel like that is such a nitpick for, like, well, she's the older sister in this comic. Like, how many times have comics been rerun that things are different in different runs? Okay, and in this version, she's the younger sister. I feel like it's a kind of nitpick to just be like, but she's the older sister. In this version, she's the younger sister. Like, oh well. As far
as
like,
an older person, that's her character. Like, well, it's not just that she's the older sister; it's that she is an older person.
But it could be a thing where they're specifically choosing to not do that, to do a different Aunt May. Like, you know, like it's different and it is a different character at that point. But if that character is equally as interesting, it's not a problem yet. I think it's too early to say that a young Aunt May is a problem.
Yeah, I guess that's more.
I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just saying it bothered me.
Okay.
Let's try not to belabor this too much longer because I don't have a whole lot of time. We have many other things to get to. But Eric,
this is a Captain America Avengers movie. We're talking a lot about Spider-Man.
I know. Can I say one more thing about Spider-Man? It'll be really quick, I promise. I bought, and this also has to do with Ant-Man as well. I bought that they were, even if plot-wise it didn't make a ton of sense, I bought that both of those characters were in that fight because this is a dark movie. There's a lot of really dark stuff happening, and in general, superheroes are sort of geared towards, like, all age groups, but I know that they do try to gear them towards kids on some level, and I feel like you needed that. Otherwise, it's all of these characters that kids love really going at each other. But
that's the movie I want, because I'm an adult that loves these characters.
I know, but even I personally was starting to get like, oh my gosh, like this is getting really depressing, especially at the end. And I like it. I like that it went there, but I think that we needed that sort of breath of fresh air in the middle to make it so that by the time we get to the end, we aren't just like in the deepest depths of despair. And we got some of that with other characters, and we didn't necessarily need Spider-Man and Ant-Man to do that. I mean, like there was the great moment between Nat and Clint where they were like, are we still friends after this? Like that line made it. Those things made it not quite as dark for me, I guess, is what I'm saying. And I like that they did that to make
Black
it.
Black Panthers, when Clint's like, I'm Clint, Black Panther's just like, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, there were other lines in there as well, but I think that there was a lot to be, like, I don't know, Ant-Man sort of filled that for me as just being a character who could be there, who was, like, fangirling. Same with Spider-Man, although obviously there's more to him than just that, but at least with Ant-Man you had that sort of, like, this is a little bit more comic relief so before we get into the real dark stuff with, like, people's moms being dead and, like, long-time, very good friends going at each other and leaving the end of the movie still not speaking to each other and, like, they are not friends at this point. Like, Iron Man and Captain America are not on good terms by the end of this movie, and I think you needed some, like, light in the movie to not just make it, like, a total, like, downward spiral of depression.
So I feel like we have a lot of quips and jokes and things that aren't just.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I would keep Ant-Man. I would cut
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Of doing a cinematic universe so that you can throw in characters that you have already set up and other things, and they don't have to really necessarily be hugely impacting to this story. But like, isn't that kind of like the point of like what building a universe brick by brick like this is for?
Well, and that's what I feel like Ant-Man is. Spider-Man halts the movie to introduce a new character.
Yeah,
Ant-Man was just
I can understand what you're saying about Spider-Man, but that's my thing with Ant-Man. That's why Ant-Man does not bother me at all in this movie. Like
Ant-Man doesn't bother me either. He has some of the best jokes in the movie. Him shaking Captain America's hand, and while still shaking, says, "I'm shaking your hand too long," is one of my favorite things.
I also love when he's like, "Thanks for thinking of me."
Yeah, yeah. Hey, it's Captain America. I know you too. You're great. And I think he's lying. I don't think he knows who Scarlet Witch is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lo, I don't think it's just a matter of also, having a light in the middle of a dark movie. I think that if you, whether you buy certain characters being there and whether you think they were shoehorned or not, when you get all those people there and people that we have been dealing with and building and that we know and that many of which feel like real people to us and that have these relationships and like each other, I feel like that's kind of how that would go, and that's why I don't, and I don't mean to gang up on you, Eric, but that's why I don't agree with Eric and Steve when they say that scene goes on too long.
I love that scene.
Steve doesn't agree with me.
Oh,
that's
Steve
just
doesn't
me.
agree.
Don't throw Steve under the bus with me. That's just me.
No, I agree that the fight scene goes on too long. I mean, I saw it a 5th time today, and that's...
Oh my god.
I tried to save you, Steve. I tried to save you.
Now he said that, and I don't agree with that. The thing is, Lo, you mentioned the exchange with Hawkeye and Black Widow, and there's that whole thing about like pulling punches. This is a dance for a lot of these people, and
for sure.
it's
very clear that everyone's pulling punches.
And that's one of the reasons that I really loved that scene, was because you believed that these people are friends outside of this squabble that is happening within this family.
Kind of how that would go. They really earned that. They've been trying to build something that feels like the early Stan Lee Marvel universe, to the point where if you put all these people together, it would feel like that. And talking about the juggling again, they're able to keep such a good handle on what everybody's motivations are, that some people are that way, and of course some people aren't. Black Panther's obviously super serious. I thought pitting Spider-Man up, some of the matchups were super fun. Having Spider-Man be the main person in that fight that's fighting Winter Soldier is just fantastic. It's absolutely hilarious.
You have like the most quippy character against like the most serious. At least in my opinion. I mean, I feel like
and also the most tragic, and possibly foreshadowing, because we know how tragic a character Spider-Man often is. They might end up having some things in common down the road. Right now, they couldn't be more different. But Eric, I wanted to ask you a question about the Aunt May thing. God, we've got to move on from this, and I don't have. We've got to move on from this.
I'm going to talk about Hawkeye and Vision.
We will, but I got to ask you this question, is because we've been fighting you a little bit, some of us, about the whole, well, is it just that Aunt May has to, like isn't like she's in the comics? Is that the issue? Is your problem that you, and I'm just asking, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but is your problem that you feel like it's a double standard to say with certain characters, yay, we took them right off the page, and then other characters, well, they're doing their own thing? Like, is that the thing? Where, like, if we're taking people off the page, they all have to be that way?
Well, no, because I mean, that's a little bit of my issue with Zemo not having the mask, is we could take all these other characters right off the page. Zemo, he can't have a mask. I have a very definitive view of Aunt May that is built by J. Michael Straczynski and Brian Michael Bendis, and I feel that those two people have the best version of that character, who completely works in a movie, and we kind of throw that out for this really young, hip Aunt May, and no Aunt May has ever been young and hip. Like, the part of her character is that there is a distance between her and Peter just based on an age gap. And that is not present in the characterization that we see. She seems like the super coolest mom/aunt, like, she's like the aunt in Big Hero 6. So it's absolutely, I guess, a comic book purist thing, or I guess, like, well, that was different from the book, to put it in a slightly different context. It's wrong to me. And there's a lot of things with Spider-Man that aren't bad. They are wrong to me. Spider-Man living in an apartment complex, I know what Aunt May's house looks like, and it's not an apartment complex. Like, there's just a lot of things that are just wrong to me, but aren't bad.
That actually kind of bothers me, too. But the apartment thing, I don't know, that's really...
Okay, well, we've got to move on. I feel the need, because I know we're going to get a lot of comments later about this. I'm sorry we belabored the Spider-Man thing this long, the Ant-Man thing especially. That was a question I had to ask, though, because I was afraid that if I didn't mention it, that there would be a lot of that people would fairly judge Eric because he's complaining about it not being like the comics, and he wouldn't get a chance to say his piece about that. So anyway,
I'm completely complaining because it's not like the comics.
Okay, that question that had to be asked. So if that's your reason, that's fine. I wanted to come out and make sure that you had a chance to say that.
Can I ask you about Vision and people clothes?
Yeah, go ahead. No.
Okay, that's it. I'm fangirl squeeing about Vision and people clothes because that makes me laugh, and I love it so much.
I feel like he didn't have a lot to do in this movie,
And
but
Cook.
I liked everything that he did.
I feel like he had a lot to do emotionally.
I thought
Yes.
he was a good character.
He had a surprising
I guess I just mean that I think I expected him to be more in the movie than he was. Not that he didn't do a lot.
I expected him to barely be there. Yeah, I was.
Really?
I was
Okay.
really want a Vision Scarlet Witch movie. Like I really
Yes.
want to explore this relationship.
So
And I love
cool
that
they
she
set that up.
is one of the only. I mean, I think this is in the comics, but I love that she is kind of the only person that can really go up against him.
Yeah.
She's leaned on a little bit too much in the fight, where
Yeah.
Tony has all of the heavy hitters, and so Scarlet Witch, there's a point where like she just runs from scene to scene, stopping Tony's guys from beating Cap's guys because they're all way more powerful, except for Scarlet Witch.
Well, this is the thing I noticed on the second viewing. Nearly every single move Hawkeye has involves Scarlet Witch finishing it off. Like, everything he does, Scarlet Witch has the follow-through.
I kind of don't mind that, though, because, I mean, they had such an interesting relationship in Age of Ultron, and he's kind of like her dad, and so she shows up and helps him out every now and then. I think that's fine.
It's kind of implied he's there because of her. Like, he talks about a death,
Yeah,
and the only thing I could
implied,
assume
yeah.
was that it was her.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was figuring. Like, those two already
I'm
have such a
not
relationship that he's
complaining.
mostly there for her side of it.
I'm really glad they did that, actually. I mean, I'm not complaining. It's just something I didn't notice until the second viewing. I'm glad they did that because it reminded me that they had that exchange at the end of Ultron because I had forgotten all about that. I was like, oh, yes, those two characters have a history, and that, yeah. There's a lot to keep track of now, especially when you watch a lot of crappy TV at the same time.
I really want a Hawkeye movie. Why have we not had a Hawkeye movie?
Can you get like a Netflix show or something?
He needs a TV show.
I have a lot to say or I have some to say about Hawkeye in this movie. So whenever there's like a break and you guys talk, I'm gonna eventually talk about Hawkeye.
Go ahead. Go ahead right now.
Okay. So in Age of Ultron, we kind of start building this characterization of Hawkeye as like a salt of the earth guy that like works on his house and like has the traditional like what's that called? The nuclear family. And they continue that here, and I think it's really interesting because this is a case, I think, of someone who is in no way off the page. He's not really like the comic book Hawkeye at all, but he's and I mean this as apolitically as possible, he's a Republican. Like, that's kind of what they defined him as in this movie. Like, he's the only person who is treating Tony Stark's side as if it is wrong and not a different opinion. When he shows up to get Scarlet Witch, he is very just like, this is wrong, and then when he talks to, I love his speech to Tony, where he's like clapping, and he's like, oh, the futurist who's going to tell you what's best and how to live your life, and it all comes down to, I'm not a criminal. Why am I here? I really like what they're doing with Hawkeye, and coming out of this, I want a Black Widow movie, but Hawkeye could be a supporting character, like Falcon to Captain America in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be really surprised if she wasn't, and then, I mean, I could see them doing kind of like what they're doing with Ant-Man and Wasp, and having a movie called, Black Widow and Hawkeye, although there's been so much clamoring for her to get her own movie that even if he's in it, there'd be backlash if his name was in the title.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I also want a Scarlet Witch and Vision
won't do
movie,
that.
so I'll at least say I think Black Widow deserves her own movie after this. And for some reason, both her and Sharon Carter are not arrested for treason.
No,
they both
but
commit
here's
treason.
the thing about that, though, because after Sharon Carter gets the thing for Captain America, she has to be the other one. Cap tells her that, and then Widow's got the same thing when she betrays Tony in Black Panther. So they're both presumably in jail. We just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Or still on the run.
Or still on the run, one or the other. I'm not sure if Widow's running, but I know Sharon is.
Okay, guys, let's talk about some more major stuff. And Steve, I feel like we've been shafting you the last several minutes. Sorry about that. I want to talk about that because I know some of us are questioning things there, and some of us have more issues with the beginning of the movie. Rasco kind of outlined a lot of my issues, and I'm with you, Rasco. I'm not sure if it's I need more viewings or what exactly, or if I'm right about it, but some of that lines up to me, and I couldn't decide if Zemo knew that Iron Man was definitely going to be there, or if he had contingencies in case it didn't happen there, where it could have happened someplace else.
To be fair, the Joker has a lot of stuff
many...
like that too in The Dark Knight.
Oh no, it does,
Yeah,
and I've complained about that stuff in that movie. It doesn't kill it, but it's better than a lot of other master manipulation plots that we've seen in these kinds of movies. But it's still a question I had, and this is the big one that I'm sure a lot of you guys won't have, and it's still a thing I'm just wondering about. I get why Tony's angry, and I get that he has a tendency to let his emotions kind of run him sometimes, but I wasn't sure he'd go after Bucky the way he did.
No, I totally buy that. I think that's absolutely brilliant. That's 100% in his character for this movie. That's part of why I say that.
Are we talking about the finale?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He killed his mom, dude!
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I
was there, Eric. I know what the plot was.
No, but I mean, this whole movie, from the very beginning to the very end, from the very end of Age of Ultron even, Tony Stark's whole thing is, I want to fix everything. His opening speech in this movie is, reframe the future, I funded all your projects, go fix things in this world. This entire movie, his argument isn't necessarily that registration's a good thing. His argument is, the world's damaged, I need to make everything better. I need to make everything connect and everything work.
And also,
by the
he
end,
does not kill Bucky.
Fine. By the end, all of his friends are in jail. He's conceding that he's wrong. He's going to help Captain America, and Bucky kills his mom. At that point, the straw just broke the camel's back.
Well, and he's not. I don't. It's hard to tell in some of these fights. Clearly, War Machine and Falcon. War Machine murders Falcon, so he has to be pulling his punches. Tony does not kill Winter Soldier. He blows his arm off. And I think because there's that shot that I think goes on a little bit too long, where Bucky is tearing into Tony's arc reactor, and I think it goes on too long because in my head, as a player of Marvel vs. Capcom, I'm just like, Unibeam. I'm just waiting for it, and I think Tony might be waiting to a point where he can fire it and not hit Bucky in the head and murder him. I think as off the chain as he is, he's still not trying to kill Bucky. He wants to take him in. So I don't think he's completely out of control.
It's just Iron Man's kind of emotionally broken at this point, and he's still trying to make it work. And by the end, when he gets Steve Rogers' letter, I think they're on better terms. But I completely buy that he went off the deep end there.
Yeah, at first I thought that I didn't buy Tony going off the deep end, and I still don't know if I do, but I kind of see it as I think you're supposed to be well, yeah, I understand why he reacted that way, but he's not sympathetic when he does that, for me at least. He's not sympathetic.
Really? I'm on his side.
No, I think he's...
But it's weird, though, because I'm not sympathetic towards Cap either, necessarily, at the end. There are things where I think Cap just handled situations poorly, and it's not that... I think it's because of his emotional
really
state.
bad handling situations.
But I think that's...
Cap is really inspired by Peggy Carter's death to stand his ground in a more, arrogant way than he normally would have. So I think that... They're Steve, when you talk about how there's things going on in their personal lives that make them not emotionally stable enough to be handling this argument right now, I think that is kind of at play there at the end as well.
Exactly, that's my thing.
Steve and Tony are making mistakes that make them slightly unsympathetic, but it's a really sympathetic scenario. In a way, it's unsympathetic because they're making the wrong choices. I love that. But it's sympathetic because they're people, and I buy it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I kind of buy all that, though. That's my thing with this movie, is that everyone here, they marketed this movie as Iron Man versus Captain America, they hate each other, this is a political argument, and that's not what this is at all. This entire movie there is a political argument that deepens riffs, but at the end of the day, it really is just an emotional problem. All of these characters are just having emotional reactions to everything. Vision and Scarlet Witch's whole thing related to the Accords has nothing to do with the Accords. It's all about how they see themselves. Same with Tony and Steve Rogers. By the end, they are behaving poorly, But that's the point, and that's why I buy them, and that's why I'm sympathetic towards them, is because they've had like the worst day, the first week imaginable, and they're just kind of broken by the end. And then having all of that, having like this horrible chain of events happen, and then Captain America still sent a letter to Tony saying that I will still help you if you need me. Like, I think that's the definitive way to end a Captain America movie.
And the thing that this does, as opposed to the comic book, is we do not get to the end and have the big fight where they're calling each other names and acting like, well, I never really liked you, you jerk.
Yeah.
They're still friends fighting. Like, and I think that's really the thing is, even at the end of this movie, they are still friends. They are on different sides of an issue, and a lot of stuff has happened between them, but they're still friends.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I was most surprised by with how the ideologies were handled. That I get to the end of that movie and I'm not sure who I'm siding with anymore. And that's fantastic. I don't know what side of the line to land on that. Both of them have really good points, but then the human condition becomes an issue when both of them go way too far in the respective places. It was just a question with the Bucky thing. I just wasn't sure. Obviously intellectually he understands that Bucky is not at fault. It almost would have made more sense if he just railed on Cap over it. I kind of understand.
Yeah, but I think he's going after Bucky to get at Cap.
Yeah, but I mean, like, and part of the thing is also,
and Bucky is the reason for all of this.
Right.
Cap would not have started a war over the Accords. It's because he's also trying to do this Bucky thing. So it's not just that he killed his mom. It's also that the guy that Cap has been protecting and the person who is directly, or I guess indirectly, responsible for this whole movie and everything that's happened also is the person that murdered his mother. I don't think he'd go after Cap. He's venting all his anger on that.
And then
this
again,
guy.
just part of it is the visual. If you want to even simplify it, it's not that he knocked their car off and they died in a car accident. It's that he knocked their car off. They're injured. He beats Howard Stark's face with his arm and then chokes out his mother, and he sees all of it. Like, even on a simplistic level, you see a guy choke out your parents, and he's right in front of you, and you don't do something. Like, I feel like there's tons of complex layers, but then also it's just bare bones. This guy killed my mom and dad.
Yeah, but I do think though, like, you're supposed to see that and be like, he is irrational in a way, because like that's not what, in a perfect world, if we could all be the best version of ourselves at all times, we would be like, no, I'm not gonna give into that vengeance. But Tony and Steve are not their best selves at this point right now. Steve has been holding a secret from Tony. That's Steve, and Steve admits that he was wrong in the end, that he was just sparing himself. So Steve and Tony have been doing things to somewhat try to coax each other into, like seeing the other point. But at the end of the day, like, they're still themselves, and they're not the best versions of themselves at the end. So when they go at it, they're both, in a way, somewhat at fault for what's happened. I don't think you're supposed to look at either of them and be like, they were totally right here.
No, you're not. And importantly, the implications of Tony taking. I mean, I like that we get there. It's just in the moment I wasn't 100% sure that I bought it, but symbolically and thematically it's fantastic. When he's going, the implications of Tony railing on Bucky like that are really interesting, because Bucky is is the kind of symbolic embodiment of everything that Captain America is fighting against, that Tony at this point is kind of sort of in favor for, where like the furthest extreme of what Tony wants is Hydra, and that's what this guy was, he became a completely, brainwashed super soldier. So he's the completely controlled state. I also really like it symbolically because of that running through line that I keep writing about in Rewinds ad nauseum about the heart, about Iron Man's heart versus Captain America's heart. The image of Captain America putting his shield into Tony Stark's heart and what used to run him, and that's no longer the case anymore, is fantastic, because the guy who is supposed to be the embodiment of the best of humanity is plunging his shield into the heart of Tony Stark, but Tony Stark, both literally and at this point maybe both metaphorically and at this point maybe literally, doesn't have that heart anymore. So both of them are heartless in that moment. Oh boy, that's cool. They have somehow or rather, and we're talking about different people making movies, they have remembered that motif and continued to build on it every single time these two characters are on screen, and even before we had both of them. All the stuff that the first Captain America movie is doing to build on Iron Man, without Iron Man even being there, up to this moment, that stuff's kind of genius. So I mean, I loved that third act for the thematic stuff.
But I think also, the layout, to go with your parallel, what's interesting is that the first time we see Tony in this, he's got a device that rearranges your mind, and if he wanted to, he could cure Bucky.
Wait, really?
Yeah, with the glasses, that he can rewrite his memories.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
Like, he
That's
could
cool.
cure Bucky,
Wow.
and Cap doesn't know about it, and by the end, if they were on the same terms, Bucky would be okay. Everything would work out.
Whoa, and he wouldn't have to go to Wakanda and all of that. Can I also mention how cool it is that that Cap tried, because this is the only way the scene could have played out. When he says, "My father made that shield, you're not worthy to hold that," the only thing Captain America at that point can do is drop the shield. If he keeps it and walks away, he's no longer Captain America. I love that he drops it. I mean, he's a guy, he's gone too far. This is the guy who refused to change, and now he has done that too far and kind of accidentally changed, and he's trying to bring it back. He drops his shield, but then he goes to Wakanda. I love that. That's so cool. He goes where all the vibranium is, of course. He's going to have 16 different shields the next time we see him.
Is he staying in Wakanda? I've talked to a couple of you about this. I got the impression he was just dropping off Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is going to be stored there, but Cap's not like living in Wakanda. That's the impression I got.
I don't know, but he's at least aligned with Black Panther, so he has access to vibranium.
I don't think he's aligned with Black Panther. I think Black Panther is letting this happen. Because Black Panther removed himself from the conflict. I mean, he has that great speech about how, like, vengeance is consuming them, it's consumed you. I don't think he's on Cap's side.
No, he's probably not.
Even before that, like, even when his stuff was happening with his father, he agrees with the Accords before any of this goes down.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just saying that you can't tell me that the next time we see him, he's not going to have a shield and that it's not going to be made from vibranium he got at Wakanda.
I think he might not have the shield. I think he might be Nomad.
I will be really surprised if they do that, but I would almost bet you money they won't. I really think half the reason they send him to Wakanda at the end, a third. I mean, obviously, one of those reasons is so that we can somehow or rather keep Bucky but get rid of him, and another one is to set up Black Panther. But I'll be really surprised if that's not what they do.
I just feel like
Eric, that's a great point.
Character
doesn't
drop
stay there.
that shield and then just take advantage of the vibranium mound. Like, I don't know. I feel like that'd be a jerk move on his part. Like, the shield is a symbol for something, even though Howard Stark made it. If he just goes out and gets another one, it's kind of just a loophole to make himself feel better, and it makes it look like he didn't learn anything.
No, I agree with you, but I don't think they'll think about it that hard, and I think they'll just give it to you and hope that you don't think about it.
I bet you next time we see Captain America, he's not Captain America. He's whether they give him a new name or not, I bet you he has a new costume that
That'd be
is
cool.
Probably black, because that's what we like to do in these movies. Even Vision has all the green drained out of him in this. But I think he has a new costume and probably a new code name, either the Captain or Nomad or something. He quits a lot in the comics and creates new identities. So I assume next time we see Captain America, he'll be that.
He probably won't be U.S. agent.
No, probably not. Probably not.
I want him to be Nomad from the comics with the open chest and the popped collar.
There are so many other things to talk about, but unfortunately, I have to go. So let's go ahead and do some final thoughts real quick. I mean, there's a million other things that we could have and probably should have talked about.
We didn't talk about Zemo nearly enough.
No, yeah.
We didn't
I take the blame for all of it,
though.
Yeah, we don't really
I
talk
love
about
how we moved.
either.
I don't know if there's an Oscar for best choreography, but whoever designed the black or whoever trained that actor to move the way he does needs an Oscar.
I know,
he moves
so
completely different than anyone else.
He's
Yeah, just real quick.
Panther.
I'm sorry, I've got to stop you for a second. If you guys, because there are just other things we should have talked about, and this is what happens when you have the panel 5 with a movie this big. You guys you guys talk about Zemo or pick another topic. If you'd like to continue for a few more minutes, I'm going to go off and take care of a couple things real quick, and then I'll be right back. So you guys keep it going for just a little bit.
Cool. Okay.
So does Vision shop for his own clothes, or does someone go get them for him?
I imagine Tony or Wanda or someone goes out and buys it for him. But do we want to talk
Well, he
about...
can't get any new clothes when he's got Wanda in lockdown, though. Because he can't go get clothes and she can't go
Real
get clothes.
problems. He can't get new clothes.
He probably doesn't understand the concept of money either, so like he just goes in and takes the clothes. No one's gonna...
I love when he phases through the wall, and he has like this moment of just like, well, the door was open, so I just assumed it was okay.
Yeah, no, I love that. Part of the thing is I love Vision in Age of Ultron. I was really worried that they'd bring him in here and they wouldn't remember like how much of a god on Earth he is, and they totally remembered all of it. It was great. Like he really is a person with too much power in like a child godly form, and he's just figuring things out, and I love it.
Can we also say that is like one of those casting things? I remember we did a Geeky Gentleman episode, Steve. We were talking about like casting that's perfect. That's perfect casting right there. Vision, like
yeah, he's great. He's
I don't think you can get any better than
Panther.
that.
Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther is probably, aside from the story stuff, is my favorite thing about this movie. He's so good.
This is one of the first times in a long time, maybe since I became like a real comic book reader in like 05, 06. This is one of the first times I've ever seen someone in a film where I don't care about the character really much, and like now I'm like, well, crap, I need to go read some Black Panther comics because that guy is really cool.
He's so interesting. I love everything there.
And I read the first issue of the new Black Panther comic, and I was very much like, I don't know, this doesn't seem that interesting to me. But now that I've seen him in the movie, I'm like, okay, I am very interested in this character. So the movie did its job.
He's so fascinating. I've been reading through a lot of his stuff lately.
I'm excited for the movie.
He's so good.
I'm really excited for his movie. I'm worried that it's going to be like jam-packed as like Civil War 2. I really hope it gets to be his own movie. I
think it's going to be. It's also being directed by the guy that made Creed, so I'm really excited about that because that guy knows how to work with lots of A-list actors at the same time.
Well, I think they have a lot set up for it to be a movie, and I mean, like, I'm sure this is obvious, but just like about him going back to his country and like figuring out like how to run it now that his father is no longer around.
Yeah.
I don't think that they'll really need to rely on too much, other than the fact that his father died in Civil War. They won't really need to rely too much on what went down in Civil War to have a really full movie. I don't think they need to rely on it.
I'm just worried that they're.
I'm just saying I don't think they'll really. Yeah.
Really?
But I hope that they.
A really interesting thing with Black Panther at the end of this is that in the beginning we have obviously Black Panther. He's not an advocate of diplomacy. He's not about working with people and stuff like that. And it's really interesting to see, like, at the beginning of this, he is like that, and then he finally kind of works with Tony, and he decides to help Tony to get at Winter Soldier, and he works with the rest of the world, and he ends up kind of burned at the end. So it's going to be a thing where
but he also, I guess you could say, he has an arc of being a man of action, or jungle action, if you will. That's where his first ongoing was.
I'm actually reading that right now, so it's a perfect joke.
He's very much a man of action. You know, he has that statement of, like, I will kill the man that killed my father. And at the end, he's making a compromise diplomatically with the very man he thought that killed his father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It stops him from committing suicide too, which is
great.
Huge.
I also love his just
it's awesome.
His stuff is fantastic. Like he's got that line where Zemo's like I'm no longer part of this world, and then he just shows up and he's like, the living are not done with you yet.
Yeah.
Like he's got fantastic dialogue all the way through. He's a fascinating character, and I think he's got probably one of the best costumes of any live action superhero ever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Did anyone else really like The Hobbit? I can't remember what his name is. Martin Freeman?
Oh, yeah. Evident Ross.
He has two scenes. He's doing an American accent, which is really good, and both scenes he's such a big, tough guy, and I think it's really funny. I didn't catch it the first time. The second time...
I can't wait for Black Panther because he's going to be playing off
His
both
American accent was...
and Andy Serkis. It's going to be great.
But I think I know him from so many other things that I was just like, I can't process that accent coming out of this person.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it
was really weird to me. I don't think it was his fault though. I think it was more my fault because I've consumed all of his.
I love we only get him twice, and the first time is he's being a tough guy to Winter Soldier and to Cap, where he's like, oh, you guys deserve worse than prison, and then we don't see him again until the ending, where he's being a tough guy to Zemo, where he's like, if you step out of line, you have to deal with me. Please step out of line. I was like, oh, I really like this character because I hate him.
He's great. I know. I love him.
And I've never seen him play a character like that. He's usually the likable human element of a story.
Well, and he's a very like not assuming guy in his build. And I know that that's like not necessarily a groundbreaking character element to have somebody who isn't big and tough act big and tough, but I still liked it.
He's kind of got like a Napoleon complex.
Yeah, for sure.
Eric, do you want to keep talking about Zemo? Because you mentioned that earlier.
Oh, I love Zemo so much. I only know this actor from Inglourious Bastards.
Me too.
Which is my favorite Tarantino film.
Watch Rush.
Yeah, everybody keeps saying Rush. I gotta watch that.
He's so.
He is in Rush. He plays the guy opposite Chris Hemsworth, doesn't he?
Yeah, Nicky
Yeah,
Lauda.
he's great in that.
He fights Thor?
Well, he races Thor.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. But no, I think Zemo is a really, really interesting, and one of the flaws I think in this movie is I don't think they build up the twist that this isn't a supervillain plot at the end. Because I feel like it's supposed to build up like he's going to have an army of Winter Soldiers. And when you get to the end, it's like a gut punch twist. I don't feel like that information is conveyed clear enough to a general audience to really get the impact of that twist. That he is not trying to be a big grand supervillain.
See, I think it kind of is, though. Maybe not to a general audience, because this is one of those movies where like there's so many scenes and there's so many things going on.
Did you the first time, though?
Yeah, not the first time, though. Not the first time, but like
people are going to see this once.
There are lines like Cap's like this doesn't have to end in a fight, and Bucky says it always ends in a fight. Like there's always these cues of we're about to play on the superhero tropes and they do something different. They're always like building towards that, and it looks better and it makes a lot more sense on more viewings.
I agree, but I think most general viewers are going to watch this movie once, and I wish it was built up a little bit more clearly for a single viewing.
That's fair. That's one of these things. Like this is such a complex movie, and I feel like a lot of people are oversimplifying some of the motivations and stuff.
I think it's a view. I kind of hate it when people say this, but I think it's a movie that requires multiple viewings before you can really formulate an opinion on it. And I don't feel that way with a lot of movies, but I really feel like this is a film that's really dense and has a lot going on, specifically with the Zemo side of things, because he's in it so little. I really think this is a film that needs to be seen at least twice to really pick up the nuances of what's going on.
The first time I saw it, I thought his whole plot was kind of cookie cutter, and then when I saw it again, I was like, oh, there's like stuff going on here. Okay.
Yeah. He's like I think one of the best comic book movie villains in general. Forget MCU villains, just in general. Like
I think performance-wise, he's the best villain we've had since the Joker.
Yeah, I agree. Him, Ultron, and Aldrich Killian, I think, are the three best villains in the MCU, and then Loki, but that's a different thing. But this guy is on a different level. This is like Heath Ledger Joker. This is like...
Wow, you think so? I mean, I agree that there was a lot more going on, but he didn't, like, from a performance standpoint, it didn't hit me in any kind of a way. It was good, but
everything in the third act I thought was just amazing. I think he has such intensity and humanity and anger all at the same time.
Yeah, he's doing exactly the same thing Black Panther is. I really like it.
this is the way in which this movie is a sequel to everything, right? Where like there are depending on who you are and what has resonated with you, you're going to have a different experience with different parts of this movie. So that is clearly somehow or rather kind of, I guess. I mean, it's obvious. There's obviously a lot of Winter Soldier there, but just because you two are thinking about this the same way in an alignment, I feel like this is kind of the Iron Man 3 side of things, because that didn't hit me the way it did you guys, and that entire movie was that way for me. And then I talked to Steve about this the other day, and Steve was like, oh, wow, and have you guys talked about the title thing yet? Because we should definitely talk about that.
This is not Captain America Civil War. It is Avengers Civil War.
Right. As I said, we'll talk about that in a moment. But it's... because of that, it's like different people are going to think of this, are going to think of different movies when they watch this more than other things. Because of course, Steve's latching on to all the Age of Ultron stuff because he has married and had a honeymoon with that movie, and with Winter Soldier,
their second kid.
Yeah, exactly. I sent them. I sent their kids birthday presents. But
Ultron Jr. was really happy with it, by the way.
But I had I was feeling out a whole lot more Winter Soldier, and my latest viewing with it, I found myself seeing mentions and callbacks to nearly every movie in the Marvel Cinematic.
I don't think this is a sequel to Winter Soldier. I think it's a sequel to everything.
Yeah, it is a sequel to Winter Soldier, and Eric, I appreciate, though I don't know if I agree with it, your point that it's trying really hard to look like a Captain America sequel more than anything, so that it can earn that title. Is that a contractual thing? Is it called Captain America? Excuse me, it's all these different titles now. Is it called Captain America Civil War because that had to be the next thing for some reason?
There's no way to know, because we know that Robert Downey Jr. was only supposed to have a small role in this film as they initially conceived it, and then they decided to make him. I think he has as much time. I think he has as much screen time as Captain America, which is why I don't think this should be called Captain America.
I don't either. I hate saying that because sometimes it feels like it should, but then. Especially
I think it's the first act of a Captain America movie and the second and third act of an Avengers movie.
Yeah,
I think Sharon Carter's a big part of that. I don't think Sharon Carter would be in this movie if it was called Avengers. I think she's there specifically because of Winter Soldier.
It's intentionally opening with the scene it is on purpose, so that it's more Captain America stuff with that mission. Crossbones is there at the beginning, so that we can have a revenge thing with him and tie that up from Winter Soldier, so it feels a little bit more like a Winter Soldier sequel. But you're right. It's like this was always called this, and then they got more and more ambitious because it's an Avengers movie. Interestingly, my wife didn't know what the title was until we left the theater, and of course it doesn't have an opening credit scene with the title of the movie. And I was complaining about this on the way home, and I was like, that wasn't nearly enough of a Captain America sequel over anything else for it to be. And I didn't even explain for it to be called that because she didn't know it. She was like, "Why are you complaining about that? Why did Captain America need to be the main character in this movie?" Because his name's in the title. And Sarah was like, "Oh, really? Well, they shouldn't have done that. That doesn't make any sense."
Yeah, I think if you don't do what I would have done, which is cut this film down and make it a little bit more focused, make it bigger, make it a 2-part movie, and have this be Captain America Civil War, and then instead of Doctor Strange in a couple months, have Iron Man Civil War, and really blow this up and just bring everyone in and make it a huge thing.
One thing
which isn't my preference, but calling it Captain America makes it feel, I don't know, wrong. Or just call it Civil War, I don't know.
Yeah, just call it Marvel Civil War or something.
I'm glad that there's something to distinguish it from the comic book title, just for the sake of conversations with people like us that are into this stuff, so that you can say Marvel Civil War and know you're talking about the comic book. But yeah, I don't know why it could have been called Marvel,
even Zemo's plan is specifically focused at the Avengers. He keeps saying the Avengers, not Captain America.
And this is the only time we're going to get to see that team that we established at the end of Age of Ultron all be together. So this is a direct sequel to that as much as it is anything.
Yeah, well, I think this is as much a a sequel to Winter Soldier as like Age of Ultron is to Iron Man 3, like I think you can make an argument, but I feel like I don't feel like we would be having that conversation if this was called Avengers. I think we're only having the conversation that it's kind of a Civil War, or it's kind of a Captain America movie.
I disagree. I think we would be having that conversation, but about all of those different movies, and we wouldn't be talking about Winter Soldier exclusively, because, as you say, it feels like a sequel to all those other movies also, but, what happened to Hydra is more important in this movie than it has been in any other movie so far. So, I mean,
we keep pushing this weird thing where it's in Winter Soldier, and it bugs me there, and it continues here. Everything with Winter Soldier is Russian, but we refuse to acknowledge that his name clearly comes from him being a Russian agent, and we just keep saying Hydra, and it bugs me because everything's Russian.
That bugs me too. I don't understand why we couldn't just get the explanation from the comics of why his name is Winter Soldier and make it so like Hydra was opted and became a Russian thing. It's not that hard to explain away, but they never do it.
But they have their cake and eat it too, because every time he talks, it's in Russian.
I know.
And every time we see him brainwashed, it's in Russian.
I know, it's annoying. There were at least 3 different reasons he's called Winter Soldier. All you had to do is pick one.
Lo, we haven't heard from you in a while, and I'm wondering if there's any other major facet of the movie you wanted to talk about that we haven't had a chance to get to yet.
Well, I mostly just had stuff to say about Spider-Man and Black Panther. And we've already talked about both. And I, in general, have I don't know, I tend to not have as, passionate opinions, about things, critically, as you guys do in a lot of these. And the one thing that I was very passionate about was Spider-Man, and we already went there, so I liked everything else pretty much.
I actually don't have a lot to say about, but might be a good thing to talk about, that the writers came out specifically and said, at least with this movie, we do not care if you haven't seen the other movies. Do your homework. This movie is not holding your hand. This is a sequel to everything that's come before.
Here's the thing about, and I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to address that. I thought about making a video about it, but I knew we were doing this, and it would be relevant here. Eric, a part of me wishes they had waited to say that, because some people have gotten a little bit up in arms about that whole thing, and I'm not sure that there were a lot of people really criticizing it really hard for that until they kind of drew attention to it. I don't know if I'm right about that, but it seems like all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, you're right, you didn't really recap things and make sure that people that hadn't seen these things or hadn't seen them in a while were there with you. I thought the movie did as good of a job as it possibly could have in making it as watchable as possible for newcomers. I hate to say this, I don't want to sound like a fanboy when I say this, but how many people really are coming in on with this one for the first time? Presumably, at least seen one of these.
It's not even only a first time, because people that just generally watch these movies, see them when they come out, maybe watch them once or twice on DVD. Like, my mom wants to go see this movie, and I was like, well, you should really rewatch Iron Man 3, Winter Soldier, and Age of Ultron before you go see this movie, so you understand everything that's going on. And she was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go see the movie.
But here's the thing. Yes, you would need to do all that to understand everything that's going on, but do you need it to understand enough that you don't feel lost? And the problem is, because I talk about this stuff for a living, I have a hard time answering that question. I have to keep it in my brain all the time. I don't know if people will remember Sokovia, because Age of Ultron was not as well received as the first film, and I don't think most people go back to it as much. But there are things like that where it feels like they're sort of recapping in a nice, subtle way, where they show the island dropping, and they mention it with that, what they're talking about there, maybe. But yeah, like I said, just me being me, I don't know if that's not a thing I can answer for. I feel like that's kind of an individual case-by-case thing, where it's just,
I've only seen Winter Soldier. I've only seen Winter Soldier one time. I've only seen Age of Ultron one time. Both of them were in theaters, and I haven't rewatched them since. And I love Civil War, and I was not lost at all. Granted, that is still having seen them once, but I don't think that you would necessarily need to have seen everything like really recently in order to get what's going on. I got what was going on. I tracked everything.
You need to see it all to appreciate the complexities of some of the character stuff, especially with our two protagonists. But
For
we're
sure.
also setting up new characters and introducing them, so you feel like you're watching, a new thing, and it is a thing. It is its own story. So you're at least not. I mean, I think the next ones could potentially be much harder because we have a really different status quo now. Like way different from just, okay, S.H.I.E.L.D. is broken down. Like, having to deal with the law now intruding on superhero stuff is way different territory. But like, we're breaking such new ground with this Marvel Cinematic thing that like we've never dealt with this before in movie history, where we're building this much on stuff in 8 years. This was going to happen at some point, where you're going to get to a place.
And that we're building on different franchises. Like if the James Bond movies had a really tight continuity, when you get 7 or 8 films in, it could get confusing, but you only have to go back and watch the previous James Bond films. Here, like, it's almost, I could see, I mean, I'm not this because I'm me, but I could see, like, somebody who's not super into this stuff not knowing what they have to watch. Like, do I have to see Thor, The Dark World to understand Avengers or Civil War? Do I have to? I think the added issue for normal people is that not just Avengers like 1 through 5. It's all of these different franchises.
Yeah, and you have to also remember there are people out there that are waiting for the Avengers and Batman to team up because they don't know that Marvel and DC are different things. There are those people too. I know them.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost every time I go to a Marvel or X-Men movie, I hear someone say, "I can't wait till the X-Men and the Avengers team up."
Yeah.
Yeah. What I imagine is that there are probably more people who, and I don't know if I'm right about this. Again, it's hard to tell because I do watch all these and I'm invested. But I imagine there are probably more people who go to a movie like this, especially this one, and don't think, oh, I'm lost, or there's all these things that seem to be references to stuff that I don't know what they like. My wife hadn't seen Ant-Man yet and had no problem with the Ant-Man thing. I don't think that's really a big I don't think you need to really know a lot about that because it's not a really complicated movie anyway, or complicated character thing. Anyway, but I imagine there are probably more people that think that they understand what they're watching and that it's fine, and then they talk to somebody like us. And they realize that there's all these other layers to the thing, and then they're like, "Oh, I guess I have no idea what I just looked at." Like, and it's fine until you talk to people that are into this stuff. For instance, if you like watched this and you hadn't seen a lot of stuff and you never saw, say, Incredible Hulk, and you talk to Eric, and Eric starts talking about General Ross, you're gonna be like, "Who the heck is that? Oh, that guy was in that movie? Oh, like it would be really easy to watch this and have no idea that's even who that was.
Yeah.
You never saw.
Well,
Incredible Hulk,
I think both Avengers movies, specifically Joss Whedon went through and like combed through the previous films, and there are little things that I pick up on that I don't think a general viewer would pick up on, but they're not, part of the plot.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I talk to people, I'm like, oh yeah, there was this great little thing that called back to this thing from Iron Man 2. And people are like, I haven't seen that movie in like 5 years, dude.
Here's where they're having their cake and eating it too, though, right? Because when we get to Infinity War, they should not have to handcuff themselves to new viewers and make them all understand everything. I think at this point they've earned that. The problem, though, is the rift between the TV stuff and the movies, because you can't have it both ways where only the movie matters. And I understand people that make the argument that, well, they're just treating it like it's two separate things even though it's in the same universe. The problem, though, the bigger problem is it's not that they're having trouble coordinating those two things to line up, because that's difficult, sure, but Marvel movies actively do not care about the TV shows. Everyone on record for this movie has said that they haven't even finished watching the first couple seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or even been through all of Daredevil yet. Like, they actively don't care. So if we're supposed to expect them to just build on everything at once, when there are plot holes that relate to the TV shows, that's a problem, and they're actively fostering that. And I think they have to address that somewhere.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was the same with Netflix stuff. That bothers me because like I can kind of understand. Well, we don't want to have to deal with Shield if they're like just that. Not a lot of people seem to be watching that. We don't really care about it or like it, but I could see this continuity eventually. I can see that eventually, and for people that love S.H.I.E.L.D., I mean, I'm sorry, because, of course, if it's your favorite TV show, you'd love to see those characters involved again. It's so weird that no one in these movies ever mentioned Coulson hardly ever again.
And sometimes, and Joss Whedon said...
know that he's still around.
Well, and Joss Whedon has said that as far as Age of Ultron was concerned, Coulson was dead.
Yeah,
it's almost intentional, it seems, that we have we have Age of Ultron is full of S.H.I.E.L.D. people, and none of them are the TV show people.
So I can completely see retconning that, maybe. I mean, I don't love that, obviously, but I mean, I can kind of see just sort of ignoring that it ever happened, especially if they ever did decide to go ahead with Inhumans and they don't want to deal with the mythology that they've dealt with in that show. But to ignore Daredevil and Jessica Jones, those are hugely popular.
Tony should have gotten Jessica Jones. I feel like this is the first time, I think, in a movie where I felt like it makes sense to at least go ask Daredevil and Jessica Jones to help. One of the sides should have gone to these people, especially Jessica Jones, because she's in the phone book.
Yeah, and the thing is, there are people in...
Oh, I just love that point. That's
the thing is, there are people that get into the MCU through the Netflix series. I know multiple people that the first things that they have ever seen of the MCU are Jessica Jones and Daredevil, and then they go into through there, and it's like, well,
they're gonna think that the Marvel movies are children's films.
Yeah.
Well, until they see this one or Winter Soldier, but yeah, you're right. I mean, like the thing is, Daredevil, at least Daredevil. Like Daredevil never had dealing with Spider-Man in this world. Or some of these would just be a crime. It would be an absolute crime. Yeah. It's too good. Daredevil is still, in my opinion, one of the greatest adaptations of comic things ever, and is, in my opinion, better than the first season anyway. Better than any of the films they've made. They really should be acknowledging it. I think that bugs me. And I mean, like, maybe it's not fair to say just because it's good. But the problem is, it's kind of too good. Like
well, I mean, I think it's just like
Netflix is such a ubiquitous thing in people's lives now. Like everyone is at least trying those shows, and they say Marvel's Daredevil.
Yeah, sorry, Rascal, go ahead.
Also, when we get to presumably the Defenders, whatever that conflict is, if Spider-Man's not there for the Defenders, that's going to be weird. If we're not
for all the grounded New York heroes, you're right.
Yeah, we have to address the relation there at some point, because there's going to be big things happening in New York. And even the Kingpin, in Daredevil Season 1, where there was that whole thing where multiple areas around town were blowing up, that cannot happen moving forward in a Daredevil show without that could happen, but then that raises questions about what is Spider-Man doing? Where is Spider-Man? Or where is Daredevil in a Spider-Man movie? They have to merge those two. That has to become more connected.
Yeah, what they like to pretend is that Hell's Kitchen is somehow rather in a bubble. Yeah. If you're in Hell's Kitchen, you're miles and miles away from Queens, apparently. Yeah, go ahead, Lo.
But it's not really, because right at the beginning of Daredevil, they reference the Battle of New York, and they talk about the heroes. So it's not just in this complete bubble. They do it not enough.
But after that, they talk about Hell's Kitchen like it's a planet all on its own.
That's true.
What we need to make that work is a Brainiac supervillain that shrinks it down and puts it in space. And then you can have it isolated and never have to have
that would be a right off the page accurate Daredevil story.
Right, yes. Yeah. Somehow or rather, that's how we do King the Conqueror, somehow or rather does that, and then
I think I think calling this Captain America is actually part of that problem, because after Avengers came out, people complained. Lots of reviewers complained in Iron Man after Iron Man 3, why didn't he call the Avengers? And the answer is because it's an Iron Man movie. You can't say that anymore, because this was a Captain America movie. You can't say, why didn't Tony Stark call in the Avengers, You can't say, why doesn't Spider-Man call in the Avengers? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
you can get away with another
they had this rule of like, well, the Avengers are in the Avengers movie, and the solo characters are in the solo character movies, and you just have to accept that that's the rules because budgets exist, and doing this movie breaks that rule.
I think that though there are stories or scenarios where you can just be like, it's a time scenario, like there was not enough time to get these Avengers together or something like that. That can still happen, but it is a weird thing where maybe it's almost like Marvel's kind of just gonna like, they get like after Phase 3, their movies will like, so with Doctor Strange or no, like with no, yeah, it would be after Phase 3. So like Phase 3, they've talked about how it's kind of building this big thing, and then after Phase 3. In a way, they've kind of made it seem like it's going to kind of streamline itself into a different thing, and it will probably be a lot less interconnected and complicated. And then as that phase goes on, it will do the same thing where it starts, different films start depending more and more on each other, and perhaps this is just like a thing where it ramps up as the phases go on, and then perhaps it resets itself at some point.
And I mean, I could still go with the comic book thing of like, there are issues of Captain America and Iron Man where the Avengers show up just for that issue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I it's a problem, kind of, but I'm almost willing to give it that.
Yeah, Tony Stark gets abducted by the Mandarin for 6 months in Matt Fraction's Iron Man, and the Avengers don't blink.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Eric, I like your point because it's not weird that in a thing, even though I agree with you, the title's weird. It's not weird in a thing called Captain America: The Winter Soldier, or the Winter Soldier. I'm sorry, I keep looking at this and saying that. It's not weird that in Captain America: Civil War that the Avengers are there because the thing's called Civil War, so we got to have a war with different superheroes, but also because he is a leader or the leader of the Avengers. What makes it weird is Iron Man 3, because Tony Stark was also a leader.
Well, and Winter Soldier. None of the Avengers. Well, some of the Avengers weren't part of S.H.I.E.L.D. Why didn't he call in Tony Stark? There was no way Tony Stark was Hydra.
You gotta wonder what Tony Stark was doing, or they're gonna have that conversation where he argues and he's like, "I've never trusted that guy. He could be Hydra. He's all about himself." And Hydra is.
Or actually, it might actually work better now because we have retroactively said that he did in fact quit at the end of Iron Man 3. So maybe he was in his quitting phase.
That's possible.
Oh, that's true, because that was the movie directly before that, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it before I forget.
Thor is in between them.
Oh, yeah.
Thor was in between them, okay, yeah. See, I can't keep up with
But
those.
where's
It's gonna be really
Hawkeye
bad to get, like, page 4 or 5.
in Winter Soldier?
Oh, and people complain about that, constantly.
Yeah,
okay, guys.
And I feel like this movie now lends that criticism.
I agree with you. I had forgotten that Hawkeye was supposed to be in this movie, and I couldn't remember if that was one of the people that was, and I wasn't counting the team members of each side.
I hate his costume. I hate his costume so much.
Okay. So when he just okay. You can
I
talk
know
about
I care more about aesthetics than you do. It's a shirt, and one sleeve is long and one sleeve is short. It's dumb.
Do I have your permission to make my point now? Is that cool? I was sitting in the theater and couldn't remember if Hawkeye was supposed to be duped me into thinking that he wasn't.
Did Cap just freeze?
Yeah, he did.
I think so.
Okay.
No, he's pausing for dramatic effect.
Oh, no, he's back.
Oh, can you guys couldn't hear? Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll make
for a second.
I mean, I talk just in front of a camera all the time, but usually it's recording and people will get to hear them later. But what I was going to say is, so I'm sitting in the theater and I couldn't remember if Hawkeye was supposed to be in the movie. Toward the beginning, there's talk about him, but he's not there yet, and it feels like one of the kind of like Pepper Potts, where it's like, oh, they're talking about him, like he's not going to be in the movie.
When they say he retired.
When they shows up, you're right, and when he shows up later, I was like, oh, cool, I was duped. I never get to be duped. That was really exciting for me. And I was like, I wish I could have more moments like that. So anyway, that's the.
I don't like that he melee fights. I don't know if anybody's ever played a video game or like a tabletop role-playing game, but when you're the archer or just a ranged person, you stand in the back and you provide cover. Why does he also need to be fighting?
Shooting arrows at people it's going to be hard to be effective if you're not killing them at some
Plus, you
point.
got Scarlet Witch like constantly finishing off your moves for you. So like, yeah, you really don't have to do that.
Can
I
he launched Ant-Man into the air?
Which was awesome, by the way.
I know.
Can I bring up another talking point that I actually don't know if I have any points on, but I think is an interesting thing to bring up?
Yeah.
I think this is the first time we've done this. We address the timeline. We specifically say that everything has happened in the year it's happened. It has been 8 years since Iron Man.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've done that in any of the other Marvel films.
And
they
we've always had, like,
keep
interviews
bringing
and
up
stuff.
times.
We've always had like interviews and stuff with like Joss Whedon and the Russos saying that, well, for us it's been 2 years, but the movies never confirm it until now.
I'm glad they finally did that. We needed a timestamp. We need to know definitively that these characters have been aging in real time. That's
Well, and I
really
think it
important.
lends to the possibility that maybe Phase 3 is the end for... Like, maybe we don't James Bond all these characters. Maybe we phase Tony Stark out.
I've been saying that all along.
I know you
that
have,
makes the most
and this
sense.
is the first time I'm on your side.
Oh, good, because that is the only thing that's made any sense to me. I could see both Captain America and Iron Man being like in the background, showing up occasionally, kind of like what's his face from Stargate in the later Stargate seasons, like just putting them in a having a desk job or something, and other people taking their mantles. But yeah, I don't think we recast in this universe. I mean, except for when we absolutely have to, because we want a character to keep going in that actor's not
Yeah,
available.
I think everyone walked out of this movie saying, what if Terrence Howard had been Rhodey? I think that's what was on all of our minds this whole film.
I actually did think about that.
Yeah, so
I literally think too.
I just wouldn't play if it was Terrence Howard.
I was like, remember when this was a different person? Weird.
Have we done that? Remind me. Have we done that with anybody else in this universe?
The Hulk, kind of?
Yeah, the Hulk.
Yeah, the Hulk.
Besides, yeah, but okay. No, of course. I mean, I knew that, but I was just trying to think of, like, besides that. Okay, yeah, the Hulk. Those aren't the same. That's not the same character, though. They're different.
Thor in Thor, one of the Warriors 3 is.
Oh yeah, we should
Yes.
have them out.
Don't worry, Dan. I'm representing Dan with his Thor knowledge today. Dan would have said that if you were here.
Has Heimdall changed?
No, Heimdall's
the same. He's still the same. Is that Idris Elba?
Heimdall's the same.
Yeah, it's been
He's
Idris
the
Elba.
same all the way through.
Well, and do we know that
It's
what's
the
his name
Blackbeard
is
dude
coming
from
back
Warriors.
as Odin, so that we might get him recast.
Let's
Anthony Hopkins
talk-
just said he's not coming back.
Yeah, he won't come back. You're right. So,
Who did this?
and how do you do Ragnarok without Odin then?
How do you do a movie where we know Loki's impersonating Odin without Odin?
And I just think that's gonna be really sick.
It better be Terrence Stamp. That's all I'm saying.
That's all he's saying. Oh.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Cap froze again.
He's not freezing. He's pausing for dramatic effect.
He's just waiting, staring, and judging us.
The character's name was
dying.
Fandral. It's the guy who Josh Dallas played in the first
Yeah,
Thor
the
movie.
blonde-haired dude with the sword.
Yeah.
And then he went away to Beyond Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
I thought they got the guy from Once Upon a Time. I thought that was the switch.
No, because
Oh.
Josh Dallas was only him in the first movie.
Well, much
And now
like
it's
Lord of
Zachary
the
Levi.
Rings, it was
Oh,
originally
that's right,
supposed to be Stuart
Zachary Levi.
Townsend.
Much like Lord of the Rings, what? I need to hear this.
It was originally supposed to be Stuart Townsend, who was
Oh, yeah.
also supposed to play Aragorn. He keeps almost playing a sword-wielding person.
Poor guy. he'll always have League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
And Queen of the Damned.
For all that
That's
will
not
do.
pretty. And I don't hate his Kolchak TV show. I'm a fan of Stuart Townsend. I followed his career.
So, folks, I want to apologize to the live audience that we haven't talked about your comments hardly at all this show, and it's in a little bit over an hour. Luckily, I was able to go do a thing I needed to do and come back so I could keep talking, but we haven't been able to really talk about your comments. I'm sorry about that. We're going to need to wrap things up here pretty soon. Let's talk for a second about the a little bit more about the future of this stuff. Folks have been asking us to do that and talk about, a little bit about predictions for Infinity War, unless you guys did a lot of that while I was gone. I think that Infinity War is likely to play as the big thing that gives all these characters perspective and makes the government say, okay, fine, I guess we're not going to try to regulate you anymore. I think that's probably where this is going.
My prediction is that Zemo is also the villain of Infinity War, and he goes around and basically forms the Masters of Evil. I think that's going to be the conflict of the next movie.
That would be so cool.
I just want to point out, I predicted that. If you go back a couple Primetime Crises ago, that's what I said. It was actually months by now. It would be like at least 6 episodes back. But somebody go find it. I predicted Masters of Evil with Zemo. Just throwing it out
So
there.
I guess if that ends up coming true, Rasco deserves like 5 cookies, and Eric deserves like
the same thing. If Ray turns out to be Wedge Antilles' daughter, I get Steve's medal. Steve showed me that medal that he's gonna mail me.
That is true. I did show you that medal.
That seems less likely somehow than the Masters of Evil.
Even if it's more likely, I mean, I'm counting on the postal system missing you.
Oh, okay.
You know what? Is Zemo the first person that's been put in prison in this universe? Has everyone else been murdered or sent to Asgard?
Trevor from Iron Man 3 went to prison.
That's true.
Yeah.
But Guy Pearce didn't.
That's true.
That's about it, then, yeah. I think
and I guess Justin
they
Hammer.
haven't killed or captured.
Yeah.
Loki
thought
has spent
it
time in
was
prison.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was weird that we built a big supervillain prison, and then there were no supervillains in it because we murder supervillains in this universe.
Yeah, why did we not see Abomination and the leader?
Oh yeah, that would have been great.
Does anyone even know where the leader is, though? Because he got
And
knocked
Trevor,
out
because
in
we're
that movie
still
and
not
never shown him.
sure whether he's the Mandarin or not. I want Trevor in there too.
Yeah, Trevor. He's dangerous.
I think Cap froze again.
I think so.
Yeah, I think he did too.
But no, if we get Masters of Evil and we get Enchantress in Thor 3, we can probably have like Persuader thrown in too. Like that'd be great.
Well, and if you bring back Justin Hammer, and he said he wants to come back, you can easily have him develop a Crimson Dynamo or Titanium Man or somebody to be like the Iron Man character.
Do the Michelini and Layton thing. Just have him make a whole bunch of armored criminals that are running around, and Zemo just is part of that operation.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I really want them to reveal that Crossbone's weird like fist and knife tech comes from Justin Hammer.
That would be so cool.
Be awesome.
That'd be great.
So Cap, you have anything else
He's
to add?
writing something in the Google chat, so
Oh.
he might be telling us that.
He ghosted.
So Eric and I talked about this before, but like apparently these writers came out and said that they're going to change their weak villain problem with.
Oh yeah.
And it's like they're not acknowledging the fact that Zemo is one of the greatest comic book villains of all time.
Wait, they're gonna fix it with what?
They're going to fix it with
They
Thanos.
said-
They're going to say Thanos is going to be the end of their poor villain streak.
Which also means that they're telling us that we have 4 movies of bad villains to go.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I don't think they should have said that. And again, I just think Zemo's amazing. I don't know why you down him.
Man, if Claw is not awesome, then I'm gonna cry.
Chadwick Boseman versus Andy Serkis. That has to be awesome. In
That's
principle, it's just got to.
I was really put off by that interview because they were like, well, Phase 1 and 2 was mostly origins, and so we just didn't have the time to. I was like, well, no movies other than superhero movies ever seem to have this issue. Like Die Hard didn't have this issue, and it was kind of a John McClane origin story. But more than that, Phase 2 is all origin or Phase 3 is all origin movies too. It's the first Black Panther movie, the first Doctor Strange movie, the first Spider-Man movie.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, the first Captain Marvel movie.
But they've said like And this is weird because they're the first movies of those series, but they've said, remember when they were like, no more origin stories moving forward, but that's not really true.
But we know that's not true because Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Doctor Strange has got to be an origin story, unless it's just really clever about it and all that stuff's flashback.
I'm wondering because we know he exists in the modern timeline.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, I don't know if it's fair to say Black Panther will be an origin movie because I think it's gonna likely just depend on how you define origin. Because he's already king. Movie. He's already got his. I thought you did. I thought you said.
No, I just said it's his first movie.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
Because the writers of this said Phase 1 and 2
didn't
didn't have good villains because it was the first. It was focusing on the heroes. And they just didn't have time to focus on the villains. And I was like, yeah, but you're introducing all these new characters in their first movies.
Yeah, sorry about that. I heard you wrong.
It's cool. So I think we can all agree next year for Mother's Day. We're recording this on Mother's Day. I think we can all agree next year, Mother's Day, there needs to be a 2-pack. There's Batman v Superman and Captain America: Civil War.
Yes,
Mother's Day 2-pack.
Yes, you watch a collection,
absolutely right,
and then you watch Civil War and realize what they're supposed to be.
I certainly did not want to get into this real hard, spend a lot of time, using Batman vs Superman, but I think it is absolutely fascinating just how much the two movies are doing the same thing. I was just
similarities.
I was really surprised by that. Yes, it's superheroes fighting each other, and yes, there's two different ideological things. So you would expect some parallel. Some of it is absolutely uncanny.
I can't.
It's going to be really interesting to the choices. Yeah, Lo, sorry.
Oh, I can't believe that the catalyst for both movies was the mother. Like, obviously, it's played very differently, and
at least in this one, it was set up in a previous movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's crazy that was something, because, like, obviously they wouldn't have known that going in, that both of them went to a place to make one of the main reasons that the final battle is either happening or not happening is the mother of, like, a superhero or two.
Yeah, like Tony Stark specifically says, "You killed my mom." He killed both his parents, but in the context of
I love that.
It's bizarre that
you
immediately think the Batman.
Here's the thing. But he had to say that. It was so in character because you would not have bought him doing, and I guess I questioned it some, but you would not have bought him doing what he did at all if that line had been "You killed my dad" after what we know about.
Well, and we also couldn't say "You killed my father."
He had to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's a different relationship.
Yes,
it works.
True. No one can say, especially
how creepy young Tony Stark is. He's creepy and he makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah. I didn't like that. The only thing that made it less weird was that at least it was a hologram thing, and then you just kind of wish that everyone there looked like that, because if it had been real life, it still would have looked like that. That wasn't the reason.
I think they just digitally removed all of Robert Downey Jr.'s
contours.
Yeah, like it's like they just made his. They just got rid of everything on his face, and then pitched his voice up. And it was weird, and I didn't like it.
Like, when he started back, it was okay. Once he got right up, like, I can't even handle what I'm looking at right now. It was, yeah.
It's the Uncanny Valley.
Winter Soldier again. The one scene with young Steve Rogers, in that I'm noticing the effect more than I did before. It's really good, but now that I've seen it that far up close, I'm noticing it now, and now I notice.
I'm surprised they managed to get young Steve Rogers in Winter Soldier, because that process for First Avenger was grueling. Like they had a whole different person. There was a whole system to get that to look right, and then they just did it again for a scene in Winter Soldier, and I'm surprised it looks good at all.
Did they? Was their process different for Tony? Because, I mean, do you agree, Steve? It doesn't look as good.
I don't think it does. The thing is, like, I've seen a lot of Robert Downey Jr. movies when he's younger, so, like, in the face and the eyes, like, yeah, I can kind of see where you're going, what you're going for, but it's literally like it's just an amorphous blob that, like, retrofitted a body or something. Like, it's hard to me. I don't know what it is. It's just like some kind of goop of skin went on a form that
He's a
looked like Tony
moving
Stark.
mannequin. He's a moving mannequin phase.
Yeah,
it's
weird. The process was different because that's what they basically did for this one. What they did with Steve Rogers is they had a smaller person. They had Chris Evans shoot all the scenes that tiny Steve Rogers was doing. There's hilarious cuts of like this giant beefy Chris Evans not being able to do a push-up, and it's hilarious. They got a tiny person do the same thing, and they had like neck markers and eye markers on Chris Evans' chest and such to make it to make sure they had like all the scenes there, and there was lots of camera angles to make it so the smaller person was retrofitted with Chris Evans' head. And here they didn't do that. Here they just took Tony Stark, they took visual aids of the older movies he's in, and just kind of slapped it on his body. And it doesn't look right.
That's weird.
I think he's a little shorter, but I'm not sure.
But he'd be in college, so I don't know why he'd be shorter.
Yeah, and he moves weird. Like, it feels like someone trying to redo what they did when they were younger, and it doesn't feel like young Tony Stark at all.
No, it doesn't.
I guess we kind of needed it so that he had some sort of interaction with his mom.
The scene is good. I just don't like how they did it.
Yeah,
it's
it really
interesting
could have
because
just been
the
fixed by
scene-
making the parents look weird. Just make the parents look weird too, and then it all works.
Although that's what I'm saying, where it's like we just haven't quite like perfected this technology. They should have made them also look weird. Like, but yeah,
That makes that scene work better. I don't know, because like that's the thing is like, I don't know. Never mind. We need to stop talking about Tony Stark's guy body.
Are
you guys with me?
Okay, there we go.
We're here.
Yeah,
I wasn't. I wasn't
and-
sure if it was
and
me
Rhodey's
or you
crippled.
guys.
We
Or...
haven't talked about Rhodey being crippled.
Wait, what?
Sorry, what?
I said
oh yeah, about
Rhodey's
Rhodey being.
crippled.
Yeah.
Rhodey being crippled.
Yeah.
I really hope. One of my biggest fears is that we're having all these movies before the next one. I'm worried that next time we see Rhodey, he's just completely fine and like totally working with the prosthetic legs.
You know, like Felicity in Arrow.
Again, because
I don't watch that show. I don't know what you're talking about.
Again,
I'm not always talking to you.
in Spider-Man, and Don Cheadle is nowhere near as big of an actor as Robert Downey Jr. You might get a cameo of Rhodey there and maybe deal with some of that, but I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Something that occurred to me. Well, first of all, I was a little bit surprised that nobody died, and I guess I shouldn't be. But like, you'd figure you'd have a token death in a thing called Civil War.
That's why I like that they didn't do it. There was no token death, and the ending is so much darker and more complex than just having the shock value of somebody dying.
Exactly. Like, I think it works
I
better.
agree with you, but I thought they'd go there, and I was surprised that I didn't mind that they didn't.
Well, I was
Well,
worried that it was going to be Rhodey.
Peggy Carter dies, but that's a different kind of death.
Yeah, and like you wouldn't have been surprised if you got into this movie and it opened with "and she's dead already," right? I mean, so she didn't have to die in
Rhodey
this
did
movie.
just die in the prelude for Civil War II.
It does seem that's true. It does seem a little bit convenient that that happens to line up nice and neatly with all this stuff that like she dies and then that's the impetus. Like a lot of people are complaining about we haven't really talked about this about this being set on kind of a series of conveniences, and it's not nearly as bad as a lot of other superhero movies, but there's a couple things here and there where you're like, yeah, that's a little convenient to set this
And that's the
up.
thing with this movie, right? Like, that's the reason I can't say it's better than Age of Ultron or Iron Man 3, but I like it more than Winter Soldier, because the first act of this movie, while I love it, is just setting up a bunch of situations for these characters to get to a certain emotional place. Once they
That's
get
right.
there, it's brilliant. But how they get there is a little bit tricky.
You have to, and I'm not saying coincidences don't happen. Obviously, I feel like I always have to put in that caveat. But there's maybe just a few too many, and it all kind of lines up nice and neatly. You know, did he know that maybe did Zemo know in motion that the Accords were going to happen?
No.
So he just gets lucky that they were also in the middle of this feud over this law.
Yeah, actually, that's
not good for Zemo.
No, because both the Accords and Zemo are direct results of Age of Ultron. So they both come from the same inciting incident, so the fact that they line up doesn't bother me, because they started at the same time anyway.
Also,
Well, and
the
Zemo is
Accords-
responsible for Crossbones blowing up, so he's responsible for the direct inciting incident that starts the Accords.
And he's been studying this for years.
Oh,
before
that's
the
true,
act, so
too.
he probably timed it with the Accords anyway.
The Accords, though, they both help and should hurt Zemo's plan, because they help in that it's a great way for him to get the world's attention by having a bombing go off there, but it's bad because if the Accords go off and the Sokovia Accords happen, the only way Tony Stark could ever wind up there in that room to see that video is if he breaks the Sokovia Accords, which is
Are
not...
the Sokovia Accords part of his plan at all? Like,
they're
let's say
not.
that doesn't happen. Do
Because
they
I
still
want those to exist? Because if those exist, it's unlikely that Tony Stark would be able to go meet you there at the Hydra bunker with the other Winter Soldiers there. Because Tony shouldn't have gone, but he broke the law and went anyway. So the Accords don't help him at all.
Again, it's like a Dark Knight thing where like the Joker knows all this stuff, but every time we give him those conveniences, you get fascinating character parallels anyway, so I'm okay with it, even though it's a problem.
Yeah, it doesn't wreck the movie, but it is kind of you know.
Well, and I think a lot of that would be cleared up if we didn't waste time on Spider-Man and we gave him more scenes.
Well,
exactly. That's my thing with this movie. It could be the greatest superhero movie ever, like Eric said, if you just change a couple things.
Because I bet you that when we get the DVD, there will be deleted scenes that have more connective tissue for Zemo's plot.
Yeah, because these are the Russo brothers. These guys know these things. The fact that they didn't connect it deeper is surprising.
Yeah.
Was it? I wanted to ask this question also because I'm not sure if this is a convenience either. Was it, Steve? Is it also? Because I just can't remember. Is it also supposed to be what happened in Sokovia that gets Wakanda to stop being isolationist?
Yes, that's exactly what King T'Challa says. Is that because their vibration was stolen and led to this thing in Sokovia, we are kind of responsible. They're
doing a much better job of making that organic than I thought they were doing then. So that's good.
Yeah, I loved King T'Chaka and T'Challa. King T'Chaka's only in this movie for like 3 minutes, but he's incredible and he's perfect and he's exactly what Black Panther's father should be like to set up that character.
And you care so much.
Yeah,
when he dies.
Because that's the thing with T'Challa. The thing with T'Challa in the comics is after Claw kills his dad, his problem is he's always wanted to be just like his father. He thinks his father is the greatest human being on the planet, and he can never get there, and now he's robbed of the chance to do it with him. And so you kill him in that moment where he's agreeing with his dad, and his dad's proud of him, and he's still not quite there, and then you get that fantastic revenge motivation going forward. Like, this is a kid crying out for his father his whole life, and in the moment where he could have gotten something, he dies.
Folks, let's go ahead and knock out some final thoughts, and then we will bid you all adieu. Once again, this was twice as long as I anticipated it being, but it took that long to get through a lot of things we wanted to talk about, and I couldn't let 25 minutes of Spider-Man stand and not get to Black Panther and some of those other things. So let's go ahead and get final thoughts from people. Was there anything else you wanted to mention before we close out?
I think just with talking about it more, I am starting to be swayed on Spider-Man a little bit. I don't dislike anything from him, but I do think that being that my major issue was that I felt like the pacing was wonky, and I've only seen it once, so I haven't really had the opportunity to really suss out why it felt wonky to me, and I think that might be part of it. I still think that he was done well, but I can sort of see where you guys are coming with maybe if we had taken him out, we would have had more with like Zemo and stuff like that. So we'll see once I've seen it again, and hopefully it won't just be that I've only seen it one time like the last two Marvel movies. But yeah, I can't believe this, but you guys are swaying me a little bit on Spider-Man. He was like my favorite bit.
It was your best thing.
I know.
It was your favorite.
I know. I am aware of this. My favorite will now just be Ant-Man because I'm me and I like silly humor. So there.
I gotta say real quick, for anybody that thinks that I come into these things and I just let these guys completely change my mind on everything that I have my mind made up about, my mind's not changed about Spider-Man. I know why he was in this movie as I possibly could have expected it to be handled. Everything you guys are talking about is a problem, but I think that movie has a chance of being amazing. And I use that word, and I didn't mean to, but I did.
I'm thinking it might be spectacular.
Do you think?
Yeah. Maybe even Friendly Neighborhood.
Or possibly Webmo.
Amazing.
Superior than his performance in this film, hopefully.
By the way, we didn't mention this. the code words that break the Winter Soldier again. The last one is Homecoming. That's deliberate, right?
I wanted to mention it really quickly.
That's a
I got obsessive over those code words to see.
I'm sorry, Eric. Did you say you think that's a coincidence?
Yeah, I think that's a coincidence.
Oh, it might be. I just thought it was really interesting that
Coincidences happen in the real world sometimes, Cap.
They do.
It's the code words, but the code words, like if you actually look at every single one of them, like the numbers spell out like a year or something like that.
Yeah,
I want to say
that's my thing. Like part of what I like about the code words is you have 1, you have 9, and you have 17. That's the year Bucky's born. And then one of them is a freight card. Bucky dies to Steve's knowledge on a freight card. So there's things there. I don't know what all the awards
are. Homecoming because he goes back to America.
No, because Spider-Man. Because I need Spider-Man to matter.
I kind of want Cap to be right, and I want all of the movies after this to be named after those code words. So we have like Ant-Man and the Wasp, freight car.
Okay, we're talking too much about Spider-Man. This is my fault. I'm sorry.
Does your shirt say shawarma?
Yeah, and it has the Avengers A.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I brought up the code word thing and got to hear none of what anyone said.
Oh no!
I fell completely out. No idea. I have gotten maybe 2/3 of the entire conversation that we've been having. It's absolutely wonderful. So Eric said he thinks that's a coincidence. I just wanted to mention, and that it hit me hard, and I expected it probably to not be a coincidence because again, I got to see it early, and the Homecoming title had just been announced when I saw it like a day before, so I was like, "There's no way that's a coincidence," but maybe it is.
I think the writers have come out and said that is a coincidence. Like I said, you didn't hear this, but like I said, I have been obsessive over those words trying to figure out what they mean, and the only two meanings I've sussed out so far are the numbers 1, 9, and 17 are Bucky's birth year, and freight car is where he died in First Avengers, supposedly. So
and Rust has got to be something with his metal arm.
Yeah, like there's got to be something there. It doesn't feel like it's complete coincidence.
And those words obviously aren't all totally random, which means probably none of them are. So like the choice of the words probably isn't coincidence. Man, it's called Homecoming. That probably is.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Rascal, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I just want to make it clear that I really like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I just don't know how I feel about him integrated in this movie. That's all I'm gonna say.
I agree.
I think that I said this in the beginning when I came out of this movie the first time. I felt like it was a really good movie that has just some very, very there issues. But I think that the good is so good that it clearly outweighs the bad in this case. And I think what matters here, the stuff that really matters, is nailed in this movie. So it's a good movie. That's what I'm gonna say.
Steve, what are your final thoughts, sir?
I mean, I like I said, I don't hate Spider-Man. I like Tom Holland. He's that's the thing. Like,
this entire thing has been about Spider-Man, no matter how hard we try to get away.
Into this, and my biggest issues are those two characters. They're not. It's just you could have made the greatest superhero film of all time if you got rid of them. But even so, even with them, even with some of the Zemo issues and conveniences here and there, I think this movie is absolutely brilliant. I love it more than I like Winter Soldier. I've seen it 5 times now. It's just barely below Age of Ultron and Iron Man 3 for me. You know, and those are my 2 favorite comic book movies of all time. So not only is it higher ranking in the MCU, it's higher ranking overall.
You know what I hope, Steve? I hope that when we get to Spider-Man Homecoming, that we find ourselves spending 45 minutes talking about Tony Stark and being like, oh, we should probably talk about Spider-Man at some point in this, and then we'll be like, oh, that's okay, that's all we talked about when we did Civil War.
Exactly. And by the way, final thought, hot Aunt May bothers me. Not because of any story issues, it's just I'm attracted to a woman that should be 100 years old, and that freaks me out.
Dude, I was a little bit attracted to her. She was hot, Aunt May.
She is really hot. That's freaky.
We gotta get right back into that. There's been somebody in the comments that keeps periodically just posting that, like over and over again.
Hot Aunt May.
Eric, what are your final thoughts, sir?
Well, you know, I kind of started with I think within this movie is the best superhero movie ever made. That being said, because Steve and I are the same person. This is my third favorite Marvel movie. I mean, I flip them from Steve. I have Iron Man 3 and then Avengers, Age of Ultron. I don't think this is a better movie than Winter Soldier. I think Winter Soldier is tighter and more focused. But the Tony stuff and the Zemo stuff put this over for me. This is probably my third favorite. I really, really like this movie. And all the stuff that I'm saying should be cut, like Spider-Man and like half of the fight, they're all really fun, enjoyable stuff. I'm not arguing that that stuff isn't really fun to watch. So even if it's a problem for the movie as a whole, it's still really enjoyable. And I don't know what kind of argument I'm making, but yeah, I really like it.
So I can't wait to go back and listen to this and find out all these interesting things you guys have been saying.
Well, you find out we've been talking bad about you behind your back every time.
Oh, well, now he knows.
Well,
the surprise is ruined.
Just know I'm going to listen to it. So, Eric, I brought you into this thing, and I can take you out.
We have to pick teams. We have to pick sides.
We gotta pick. You know what's great, too? When Manos was here, six of us. So we could have had like a Civil War team of 3 and 3. But can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You lag just a little bit.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna say this really fast then. But no. Eric, when you were talking, I was afraid that I was gonna turn into the Winter Soldier because I was just hearing like little pieces of things, so I would get words and I get like enjoyable, watch, movie, best,
Spider-Man.
and I just.
9 like freight car. I really want Ant-Man and Wasp freight car.
Cap's
Oh
frozen
no,
again.
Cap froze again. Oh, he's back. Oh,
I'm just gonna stop saying funny things because you guys don't get to hear my jokes. And anyway, I was just saying that I was afraid that I was gonna accidentally start slaughtering people. That's all I was saying. Anyway, okay. So Eric, did anybody else need to do their final thought? Everybody got to do that.
Well, Manos. Should we ask
Yeah.
Manos? Manos, what are your final thoughts?
Hello?
Yeah, I feel bad that Manos dropped out so early and didn't get to stick in with us. It's just been an awful night. I can't believe, honestly, this call has stuck on the entire thing itself. Anyway, I don't have a whole lot else to add. As I said, I really, really enjoyed it. I think a lot of the criticisms that were brought up that I didn't think of are all really valid and interesting and worth taking into consideration moving forward. But it is a movie that has a lot of characters that, as I said, I think are really well juggled, but that, as Eric said, you have to watch a couple times to really appreciate, and that you really do need those other movies to really appreciate a lot of it, and that's just going to be, more and more of a thing moving forward. I think that the Russos have proven that, first of all, they're the right people for this job and for putting a lot of things together, and it's important that this was the next thing they did, even though it's called Captain America. Because it really is a bona fide Avengers movie, and they know what they're doing with them. Anybody like if you were worried about the number of characters that will be in Infinity War, I think you maybe have cause to be less worried about that now, given how well this was handled. Considering how much I cared about everybody in this, no matter what side they were on, and that I continued to care about people even when they went off the deep end, and no matter how much screen time they had, it made me think, I can't wait to see these guys try to put 67 different characters on screen. I want to see what they do with that, because I couldn't believe how well they balanced it here. That's what I have to say right now. It's going to be a hard thing to top this year. We still have some more superhero movies left to go. We've still got X-Men, and there's lots of other movies coming out this year. But
Ninja Turtles.
Doctor Strange, yeah. Boy, Ninja Turtles has got some big shoes to fill, Eric. I don't know, man. I don't know if they can pull it out.
Because it's clearly going for a really dark character drama.
That's right. I don't know if it'll pull it out, Eric. But
Ninja Turtles
I don't know.
Civil War.
I don't know if
It'll pull it out of the shadows.
I don't know if Krang can be as interesting and layered as Zemo in that movie. I'm just not sure that's gonna happen.
Well, I can't wait for Young Hot Shredder.
What happens is Krang lures the two Ninja Turtles that are on opposing sides of the other two Ninja Turtles to the Technodrome at the end, and then they duke it out.
And then we find out that Michelangelo killed their mom.
Well, we know that there's
mom?
maybe so. Does April die in this? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, that's right. I wasn't even thinking of this movie.
Yeah, it is creepy for any of the turtles to be infatuated with April, considering that she is sort of kind of their mom in that.
And also they are turtles, and she is a person.
Well, that's always been a thing. That's always been a thing. But there's an ideological thing in that movie, whether or not they should they should stay turtles or become human. So they could totally fight about that.
I'm gonna take a shot in the dark. I bet you Leonardo and Raphael on different sides of the argument.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. It's Leonardo and Donatello. I mean, they might be. But the trailers make a big deal out of Leonardo versus Donatello.
I know. I just mean because Raph and Leo are always fighting. I was making a joke.
Oh.
Somebody in the comments just said Casey Jones turns into a giant. Yeah, that should happen.
That's good.
Anyway, okay, so this has been absolutely insane. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's exciting. I'm going to talk really fast now. Everybody, thanks as always for watching. I hope you enjoyed tonight's Spoilercast. I have been Captain Logan. This was Eric.
Yes. Yes, it was. Oh, no.
Cap.
Wait, is he frozen again?
Yeah. Oh my God. Who else has this been? It's only been Eric.
It's only Eric.
Oh wait, it's back. He's back. Cap, who else has this been besides Eric?
Steve Baxi, Rascal, Low, and I'm Captain Logan saying good night. Good night.
Does anyone have any orange slices?
Okay, I haven't seen Ant-Man since theaters. Is that a callback joke? Did he eat orange slices in that movie?
We're still live.